All right, I'll start it off.
Okay.
Welcome to the 50th episode of the Friday Nightmares podcast. Holy shit, I can't believe it. We made it to 50 episodes. Thank you for being here with us. My name is Heather Powell, and I am one half of your hosting team, coming to you from Waterdown, Ontario, Canada. And with me, as always, is
Mr. Smoke Show Crawford, coming to you from the town of Swartz Creek in the county of Genesee, in the state of Michigan, in the United States of America, in the North American continent, in the Western Hemisphere, on the planet Earth, in the Milky Way galaxy, fully vaxxed, waxed, boosted, and ready to climax. And if you can, please get me wet, feed me after midnight, and let's celebrate 50 episodes together.
I actually got a little emotional doing that intro, Scott. I almost started crying.
Aww.
Well, so Scott and I, as we all know, are very close friends. I think people are aware from the visits that Scott has been able to do due to COVID. I visited him previously before COVID. We were talking last night how, it's hard to believe this pre-COVID world existed. It's 2 years into the pandemic. And so much has changed in Scott and I's life since meeting each other.
Yeah.
And it's very special in life when you meet a friend that you can be so close with, even if it's virtual. So,
agreed.
Right. Scott and I have not been alone on this podcast since Retail Horror. I think that was the last time, right? That was over 2 months ago when we decided that we would do top 5 episodes with some of our great special guests. So again, a big thank you to Matt from the Eternal
Darkness of the Not So Spotless
Mind podcast. Big thank you to Lance Lanford from The Horror Returns. And a big thank you to Tim Davis and Daniel Luffy from Horror for Dummies. And also a shout out to Gary Hill from Cinema Beef for being on our top 5s with us. And Brandon Orlick, of course, who joined us from the Exploding Heads podcast for our awards. It's been a ride.
Yeah, it's been crazy these last 2 months with like what we've done. Like we haven't done like our normal episode and it feels like so long. And once again, we're still not doing our normal style episode today.
No, because we're at our 50th episode and we steal from Exploding Heads movie podcast all the time. Shouts out to the Exploding Head movie podcast. Please subscribe on Patreon if you're not already a member. We will be going over our top 50 personal horror movies. So this obviously isn't a list of the movies we think are the absolute best. Who the fuck are Scott and I to decide what movies are the absolute best? These are the movies that we really value and really, really like. Just as a side note, thank you to all those people that watched our live video back at New Year's time. So Scott did come up from the 30th to the 1st to celebrate New Year's with me and my friends. And I thought we had a pretty good time considering the restrictions. Scotty and I went to Ripley's Aquarium in Toronto. And it's always such like when Scott and I get together, it's literally like seeing my brother. And probably people hear that and they're like, male-female relationship, that's so weird. But like, I love Scott. Scott is like my blood. And we are very, very close. And we go through a lot of hard times together and support each other. And we have a very similar personality. And having him up here and doing the fun touristy things that you don't do when you've lived somewhere for so long,
right,
was really, really fun. So
yeah, I was like, and once again, it was a visit that was pretty much go, like, because we had a small amount of time because I had to leave early Saturday morning to beat the big snowstorm that was coming my way in Michigan because I didn't want to be on the road when I got caught in that. And yeah, I'm glad I didn't because it was pretty nasty. And,
I'm glad that you got home safely.
Yeah, but man, so much that we did in such a small amount of time. I mean, we went out for all you can eat sushi shortly after I got there.
Yeah.
And, oh my God, that was amazing. And then we went to Dave & Buster's that night,
yep.
Kicked your ass in air hockey again.
You sure did. And first time you've been at a Dave & Buster's, like, let's acknowledge that. Like,
right.
And I had probably one of the grossest pina coladas I've ever drank.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh man. And we went to this like little hobby shop and it was like this collector that had all this shit. Like it was kind of like a hoarder. And it was cool. Like it was cool to do that stuff with Scotty. Scotty digs doing shit like that. And I dig doing shit like that too. So it's always nice and we can reconnect and do things. And I've been boosted as well. So
Yeah.
I'm all as vaxxed as one can be vaxxed, I guess you could say. And we will be hopefully moving into an amdemic, is what the word is on the street. And hopefully we get rid of the PCR tests, or at least make it so it's a 3-day rule applies again, that you can cross the border for 3 days with a negative test and come back. That would be a fucking heaven sent, because then I could actually go out and see Scotty.
And that would be awesome.
Right. Even though it's way more fun at my house, but that's fine.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like, for the ones that don't know, Americans have to just get one COVID test, have to have one negative COVID test and be vaccinated across the border. And you can stay in Canada as long as you like and come back. And that's all you do is that one COVID test. Where Canadians have right now at the moment have to have one before they leave to get a negative test across the border. And then they have to get a negative test coming back. And there's free ones, but those ones take too long for like your short visits that you'd be planning on doing. So you'd have to pay $150 out of pocket or more.
Yeah. American.
Yeah.
So it's like a grand Canadian.
Right.
So it's unfortunate that I haven't been able to go see Scott, but it's been kind of nice that Scott comes here because he has his own bedroom here. He has been able to hang out with my friends, so much so that we actually had him play virtual Monopoly with us last night.
Yep, that was fun.
We said Scott won too.
Fuck yeah, I did.
Me rolling for him and collecting his money and buying property somehow. And I would just like ask him whatever he wanted me to do. He could see the board and we would go through, and it was fun. Like we played for about 3 hours. So it was pretty good. I thought it went, pretty well considering it was all virtual.
Yeah, like I had a great time and I was getting a nice little buzz on, had a couple beers.
Now, I just want to shout out something. Scott already has his number one of 2022, and that is Scream 5. So, Scott, would you mind telling us how great Scream 5 is? Like, without spoilers, of course, because Dave C may be listening. I think he's already seen Scream 5. But
well, either way, there's still a lot of people that probably don't want spoilers.
Yeah. So tell us about, like, what would you say? Like, do you think the Academy Award that I made for Scream 3, I should just cross out 3 and add 5?
Absolutely. No.
Okay.
This like people know that I'm not the biggest fan of the Scream franchise in the first place. Like I like the first one and I like the second one. Part 3 I could care less, and part 4 is okay. And part 5 for me is just above part 3 in the ranking, which is second to last. And yeah, I went into this one like hoping for like something new for the franchise, but it just felt like rehashing old tricks that the first film did. I mean, obviously, if you're a huge fan of the franchise, you'll find a lot of Easter eggs that will like give nods to the other movies. But all in all, this was just like even the person I went with that's a bigger fan of Scream than I am. The movie was over, and she looked over and goes, "Well, that was a movie." But we both figured out the killer, like the killer right away, like right in the beginning. Like they made it too obvious. And yeah, just rehash shit that it just, like if you're a huge fan, I say definitely go see it. But for someone that's just kind of like middle of the road like me, you can wait.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. Movie theaters are closed here. They open on January 31st. We're recording this on the 23rd. So I may go see it at the theater, just have something to do.
Right.
But I said this last year and I stand by it. We didn't need a Scream 5. I think Scream 4 was a perfect way to end the franchise. I don't think it's a franchise that needs to keep going on and on. I don't think it's the same as something like Halloween. I feel like because Halloween, you have a distinct killer that you can plop into various situations and people can go for a fun slasher. I really do think that's different than constantly changing up who Ghostface is all the time. Like the first couple were fine. I got Scream 4. I understood the concept with the family connection in it. That made a lot more sense to me. Like I get how, and what they were playing on was social media and fame and shit like that. Like I understood the point of 4. But I get it. We all need paydays, and I'm not going to criticize you if you really liked Scream 5. I totally respect everyone's opinion. I just don't think that a movie like that was necessary. I really don't. And I love the Scream franchise. I do. It's some of my favorite films. We might hear about some of them today, but it's honestly like it's every movie's the same.
Yeah. And you are absolutely right about the killer, because for one, how many times is there going to be a copycat ghost face killer? How many times are we going to see this over and over and over again? For crying out loud. It's like,
Right.
like at least with like Michael Myers and Jason and Freddy and Pinhead and all them, it's like they are like unstoppable forces of nature, basically.
Yeah, and like that's their role. Pinhead's role is he's gonna fucking torture you and bring you to hell. That's his fucking shit. Jason's pissed off that he drowned and that his mom got beheaded and he's fucking shit up. Like he's just gonna fuck shit up for the rest of his life. I feel like with Scream, like I don't get me wrong, I did enjoy the plot lines between the first three. I did like, you know, who the killer reveal is. That's family related at the end of 2. I did like the plot line that they put together at the end of 3. And I didn't mind the 4th of it was also family.
Yeah.
But at some point, you got to be like, okay, and personally, I watched the Scream television series. It's meant for teenagers, everybody. So don't criticize it that hard. I enjoyed it because it was different.
Right.
There were some cool kills in it. And it was a fun little drama series that I could turn my fucking brain off and watch.
Right.
I don't need to walk into everything and it doesn't need to be a fucking A24 film. So, you know, it's okay to just have some bubblegum horror that you sit and watch. But anyway, when you told me about that, Scotty, I was like, I fucking knew it. And like the worst part is, I guess, one of the killers by looking at the IMDb actors.
Yep.
How bad is that I could guess who one of them was from just looking at their picture? Because it's the same shit every film. Anyway. Not to shit on Scream. I love Scream. We're going to hear about it later today, but I just knew Scotty went to the theater to see it, so I had to give him an opportunity to praise his love for it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Nah.
It was an experience, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad I went to the theater because, you know, I always enjoy going to the theater, watching movies. So I'm glad I still got to do that. But at the same time, it's like, I've seen better.
When I come to see you one day, or you come here, we should get fucking high and go see a movie.
Hell yeah, I am down.
I'll be so fucking obnoxious.
Oh, the last time I was like that was me and my buddy. We were working third shift, and the job that I was working was it was on a weekend. So on the weekends, you could go in, and as long as you started it by Friday and were done by Monday morning, it didn't matter how long you took. You could work 2 hours and go, all right, I'm going to come back on Saturday, finish the rest. So on a Friday night, him and I were working together cleaning, and we realized that there was a showing in about a half hour for Team America. And we're like, oh, hell yeah, let's just stop work right now. Let's go freaking get baked and go see Team America and then come back to work.
That's
so
amazing.
We packed a bowl of this really good shit, and him and I, the theater is only 5 minutes from where we worked. So we just power smoked it the whole way there. Like we finished off an entire bowl in 5 minutes, walked in the theater, bought the tickets, sat down, and we were laughing our asses off and were being so loud that we did not realize that the 10 people that were in the theater, all but like 2 had gotten up and left because we were being so obnoxious or because they just didn't like the movie. But
oh my God. Well, it's probably a combination between not knowing what that movie was and you 2 fucking obnoxious assholes sitting there.
Oh, we were just laughing our asses off. We were in tears.
Oh God, Scotty, that's really funny. That's awesome. Man. Anyway, we should do that together.
Hell yeah,
absolutely.
I'm down.
Absolutely. Well, I guess we'll jump into our top 50 movies, but thank you everyone for supporting us to make it to episode 50. Never in a million fucking years did I ever think I would A, be a podcaster, B, be working with someone as awesome as Scotty, and C, make it to 50 episodes. I'm just talking about movies.
Which not only is this our 50th episode, but it's also our 2-year anniversary episode technically as well.
It is. 2 years ago, we started recording, and so much has changed in that time. I've finished my master's degree. Fuck yeah.
Congratulations.
It's
so
like,
happy and proud of you.
Fucking God, that shit's over. I've been ghosted, which...
Aww.
That happened recently. That's actually my top 50th scariest movie, my DMs.
Yep.
Scotty can relate.
Being ghosted sucks. I've been there, right? Done that way too many times over my.
He also has years. That in his top 50th.
Yes. Oh,
but you know who doesn't ghost each other? You and I would never ghost each other ever. Never. Even when this fucker's been up in the UP, I hear from him.
Yeah, you get no break from me.
Well, and I want to do some big traveling this year. This is a really big year for me. I'm going to be honest. I'm turning 39, and besides this podcast, which has been a great achievement, knowing Scotty, another great achievement. It's true though. It's true. It's 100% true, Scott.
Aw.
Like, you're a very important part of my life, and you know that. So
Yeah.
and I was like, what the hell is Heather doing? She's not making fun of Scott. Don't worry, that will come. That will come.
Wait till we talk about the movies.
Wait till we talk about a Gremlins number fucking 49-1 over and over again. It'll be the quickest episode ever. But I do plan on doing a big trip this year, and I was trying to decide between England and Ireland, and I'm planning on going to Ireland. So if we have any Irish listeners out there, I was relying on somebody to give me information. I have a feeling I will not hear from that person again. So if you're from Ireland, can you please message me? I'm looking at staying in Dublin, and I would love to have someone tell me how much food would cost and other such things. So if you're part of the Friday Nightmares Facebook page, you can find me on there. I'm one of the admins. Feel free to message me. I'm just, I really, and if you want to meet up, as I said, I'll be coming to stay in Dublin, and I plan on doing some trips outside of there. I'd love for Scotty to come with me, but I don't think it's in Scotty's realm at this moment.
No, not right now, unfortunately.
Right? Unless I win the lottery, then he's definitely coming with me.
Yeah.
So I'll be paying for him to come. But we have to take different flights, because I'm not going to the fucking States to fly to Ireland. You're going to have to fly to Dublin, and I'm going to have to meet you there. And I know you're going to be scared, but it's going to be fine. I'll meet you at the airport.
That's fair.
Right. So anyway, if anyone is from Ireland and they're able to give me some advice, I would really, really appreciate it. Please reach out to me at Friday Nightmares. You can find me there. My name's Heather Powell on Facebook. Look me up, send me a message. And, maybe we can meet up too over there and talk about horror movies. So anybody, please, I was relying on someone, and I don't know where that happened to them. So
right.
hoping that someone else can reach out to me, and that would make my life a lot easier. So that's my big thing that I'm planning on doing this year. Among other things, one of my other New Year's resolution was to unfriend haters.
Yeah.
But I don't know what happens when I'm the one that gets unfriended. Am I the hater? That works.
I wouldn't say that.
Oh, thanks, Scott. So anyway, that's it for me. Scott, is there anything you want to say before we jump into our...
Well, since you were speaking about traveling, like, I'm actually in July, we'll have 3 weeks paid vacation. So I'm hoping that, I may actually be able to maybe not travel out of country, but at least travel to some states that I've always wanted to go to. Like,
hey, maybe we could go
have
together.
more fun. Yeah.
Right. If COVID's better, I could always come to Michigan, and then we could leave from there.
Right. Like,
right?
yeah, there's always there's things I'd like to be able to do, and, let Scotty cut loose and have fun.
Absolutely. Right. So it may not be Ireland, maybe New Jersey to see Brandon, but it's still... maybe awesome.
And maybe one of these days we can go see our hunky boys in Aussie.
Oh man, that would, you know what though, that's a long flight, but honestly, I would totally be down. That's actually on my bucket list. There's 3 countries that I would really like to go to: Ireland, England, and Australia. And I'm planning on trying to do that in my lifetime. So hopefully this year's Ireland. So all you Irish people out there, please message me. I have so many questions, and Expedia and Google is great, but there's nothing like talking to someone who actually lives in the country,
right,
and that can actually give me some information. So
yeah, exactly.
Please do, if you hear this, you can just look me up on the Facebook. So I guess, should we jump into the 50th movies? Do you want to start, Scott?
Yeah. So the way I ended up making this list, obviously it's our top 50 favorite horror films, just to make it easier for me, because this top 50 list was a lot of work and really difficult, because I started off with taking my top 100 that I had written down a long time ago from when I was on the Horror Drunks podcast. And then since then, I've obviously seen way more movies that I've never seen before. So I added to the list. And by the time I had added everything that I liked enough to be on a list, I was at about 200 films and had to whittle this thing down to 50 and then order everything. So I'm just going to say right now, there is no 2021 horror films on here, just for the fact that it's a fresh year. I don't know where these movies will land officially on my list I got to watch them a few more times before I'd make that decision. Then also with the major franchises like Hellraiser, fucking Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, all the big ones that have had more than 3 movies, I have only picked 1 from each of the franchises, just to kind of help limit what I had and be able to give other movies a shout out as well. But with that being said, I guess I will start with my number 50. And that film is from 2006, and one that actually Heather and I had watched together online a long time ago, shortly after, I think it was still while we could see each other in person before the pandemic happened. And that's 2006, Behind the Mask, Rise of Leslie Vernon.
I remember.
I remember.
That's a great movie.
I love this movie. It's a great mockumentary, like half mockumentary, half slasher film, and the concept of following around this serial killer that's basically like, Jason and all the other icons of the horror industry. Just following him around on his day-to-day routine, very meta, and like just kind of like poking fun at like how people like how come they always choose the virgin, and how come they always have like how they choose their final girl and their Ahabs, and like how he prepares for the final chase sequences, and how he does all the traps, and like all the tropes of the slasher film and how he does them. And then it goes into the last half of the film turns into a slasher film, and I just love the way this is done. Nathan Basil, I believe, is the character the guy who plays Leslie Vernon, and I just think he's very charismatic and also very intimidating when he decides to turn on the killer mode. But it's kind of like an indie darling in our horror movie industry, like the horror movie world. But I just freaking love this film so much.
It's so well done, and it's interesting how it goes from a documentary to a slasher. It's just a really, really clever film. And I was really glad that you exposed me to it. Before I met Scott, honestly, I hadn't watched, I've watched a lot of the popular movies, but I hadn't really expanded my knowledge. Now I feel like, a little bit of a cinephile sometimes.
Right.
A cinephile is what I said, everybody, just so we're clear. Because I've watched so many movies now. I think in the past 2 years, I've watched almost 700 movies, close to. And I think that really has helped expand, my knowledge of horror films. Yeah. And this was a really, really good one that you brought to the table. So I thank you for getting me to see it. And I totally get why it's sitting at number 50.
Yeah, it's just a great film. And I'm glad you dug it when I introduced it to you, because I had a feeling you would.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. For me, so my top 50 went pure on emotion, what I enjoy, whether they're the best 50 horror movie films of all time. That's not really what this is about. It's about our own personal list of what we enjoy. So my number 50 is the Belko Experiment, 2016.
Oh, nice.
This was a first time watch for me last year, and I thought the concept was fucking brilliant. You take an office building, and you have a group of people that have worked together for years, never suspected anything. You're in a country where laws are a little more loose, we'll say, when it comes to human rights. And you turn them against each other, and you see how people react. And this movie, to me, reflected exactly how people would react. The roles that people took on, the way that it almost became like a Lord of the Flies kind of situation, and some of the kills, because you find out, this is a little bit of a spoiler, people have chips implanted in their heads and that they could explode at any minute. And you spend a lot of that movie feeling anxious over if someone's going to explode. It's kind of like, reminds me a little bit of Spontaneous, only which I felt that way in that movie too. Are people going to explode at any given time?
Right.
And the Belko Experiment made me feel that as well. Now the Belko Experiment came first, and the ending of this movie was totally that's what you would fantasize would want to have happen, but then you would realize that this is bigger than you. So I think this horror movie incorporated capitalism, corporations, human behavior fucking excellently. And I recommend it to anyone who has not had a chance to see it yet.
That is a great choice. And man, what a mean movie too.
Mean, very mean. Really, really well done. So what's your 49? Sorry, go ahead.
I would not have, that is one that I would not have thought of, because I completely forgot that you had watched that last year.
Yeah. So that's what's going to be interesting about our list, is I think there's going to be very few similar movies. I think there might be a couple, like some big franchises, but I think that what Scott and I gravitate towards is really going to come out in this list.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
But yeah, that's a great movie. Definitely one of my surprises of the year when that came out.
Well, and honestly, if I hadn't watched the movies I had now, like this list, there's going to be movies on here that people are going to be like, really? I'm going to be like, yeah, man. That's what happens when you watch everything now.
Yeah.
You get exposed to other stuff. So
that great choice though. So yeah, I guess I'll go with my number 49. And speaking of big franchises, here's one of them.
Nice.
This is 1988's Child's Play.
Nice. Great film. Chris Sarandon's my boyfriend.
Yep.
Absolutely.
But man, the concept behind this film at the time especially was just amazing. The whole shortly after the whole Cabbage Patch big thing, and everybody wanted to get a Cabbage Patch doll and fight for it. So they created a good guy doll, and the fact that toy come to life. Yeah, we've seen it before, but there's a reason that this franchise is a franchise, and that is I would say, because of Brad Dourif voicing Chucky. He gives Chucky this like mean-spirited personality, and Chucky is manipulative as shit and is great at like basically like this movie basically plays on the whole, is the doll really alive, or is Andy Barclay doing these killings? And Chucky plays with that the whole entire time, and I love that about him as a character, because he knows he can get away with it and just be like, nope, I'm a doll, I'm not really here.
Right.
And it's one of those films that creeped me out as a kid, still has like some very creepy moments, and the whole concept of voodoo being used to transfer your soul into a doll sounds really just ridiculous and dumb, but when it's actually done on screen, it actually like is really good and well done, and the performances in this are amazing. And like I said, Brad Dourif always will steal the show as Chucky. Like,
agreed.
he's just, when he gets angry and starts screaming, especially when the mother goes to take the battery or go to check the batteries in the back,
I'm gonna fucking kill you. Oh yeah.
Oh man, like, and he just starts freaking out. Like, and I've always heard the argument, oh, why is someone so scared of a doll? They could just throw him, blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, they can throw him, but he's also still has the strength of a grown adult man.
Well, also, if a doll came to fucking life, don't give me this shit. You would be fucking pissing your pants, okay? Like, oh, I would do this or that. No, you wouldn't. Stop it.
Right.
All right. It's like the people that criticize a fucking quarterback in the Super Bowl game who like played high school football. Fuck off. Right. Like, you have no idea what you would do if you were in that situation. So I agree. And the special effects hold up today. That is the impressive thing about this film. You can watch it now in 2022 and be like, oh, fuck, it's not cheesy.
No, like the doll, like
it's not.
The animatronics for the doll is incredible.
Incredible. And like, you know, it's a really sweet performance. Who's the guy that plays Andy Barclay? No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Everyone knows who he is. Everyone knows who goes to conventions. But it's a really good film. It's a really like great concept of what if we took this doll and made it evil and coming to life. And it spawned, obviously, a franchise of mixed reviews of how people feel about some of them. You know, some people are big fans, some people are not.
Yep. Well, and while we're on it, I do have to say, if you haven't watched the Chucky TV series that came out this last year, do yourself a favor and watch it.
Yeah, I got to get on that.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I got to get on that. I haven't seen that. I think I've managed to watch all the Chucky ones now, except for the baby one.
See the Chucky? You don't really need to.
Yeah, I finally watched the one where him and Tiffany get married. That's funny. That one's funny. That one's comical, fun, right? Fuck, who's in that? Julia Stiles? Catherine Hagel.
Catherine
Hagel's in it. Yeah, I was like, oh fuck, shit, that's crazy. Great one, great classic 1980s film. I'm gonna keep it a little more modern. This was a film festival film that appeared in TIFF in 2017. It's a little known film on Shudder. I recommend people check it out. Basic concept about a shooter that takes off kids on the road, and it's called Downrange.
Nice.
And I think this is one of the most brilliant basic slasher or shooter up films, whatever you want to fucking call them, survival horror, that have come out. And I stand by that. This film is very basic. It's about a group of kids going on a road trip. Their car breaks down, and there's a sniper taking them out one by one, and they're hiding and they're afraid, and it's fucking awesome. The acting in this is out of this world. They build tension and fear so well. You're glued to the screen. Like, you're not sure who's going to get shot next. And I think similar to the Belko experiment with people exploding, you don't know when that's going to happen. The same thing with this movie. You don't know when people are going to be shot. And there's some very traumatic experiences that happens with a family that's innocent that shows up on the scene. Actually, they're all innocent. Who are we kidding? They're all innocent. The shooter here is the person that's a piece of shit. But excellent film. Doesn't get the push that it deserves. I think a lot of people have not seen it. It is available on Shudder. You can find it in the film festival awards section. I believe it won a couple of awards as well. Great, simple premise for a horror movie. Survival horror.
This one was on in my top 100 when I was cutting it down. And like, nice. Very, very tense film. And it's pretty much, how do you survive against a survivalist that is basically just hunting for fun, and you're what he is hunting. And it's a sniper that is like so well prepared. Like, he has everything he needs in his little spot, and he's hidden so well. And like, it's just like, what do you do in that situation? Like,
great movie.
Yeah, it's very intense.
Great movie. I'm glad that you liked it too. Child's Play was also on my list too, but I cut it out because I love it. Don't get me wrong. But when I made my list, I was like, what could I watch over and over and over and over again?
Yeah.
And I could watch Downrange over and over again. If it wasn't for me being so dedicated to these first time watches, I would be watching these movies all the time, because
Same.
especially Downrange, I think it's fucking phenomenal. So I'm glad to hear you also agree and praise it as well. So
Yeah, because you told me to watch it, and yeah, it was amazing movie.
yeah, so hopefully it's a little gem that maybe people haven't seen, they can check it out. So what's your 48th?
All right, so I'm going. This is my more modern film so far, but number 48 is 2016's Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Fucking awesome movie.
Fuck, did this movie
Man, what a
get
good
under
film.
my skin? Like this is isolation horror at almost at its finest. Like it is. When I watched this the first time, I was like, okay, what the fuck is happening here? Like, because they're basically, I forget the actors' names, but it's a father and son just doing an autopsy on this body that got brought in.
Yeah, and the son isn't even supposed to be there. He's supposed to be
out with
his
go out with his
girlfriend.
girlfriend. Yep.
Yeah.
And like, I just love the whole mystery of, okay, we're gonna do our autopsy on this body, and they just keep finding these really weird things with this body, and they're going, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden, like, stuff starts happening, like, and it's just, as it unravels more and more, it's just like this just insane, like, what the fuck is going on? And you want to continue watching it, but at the same time, after watching that movie, I have never been so chilled by just hearing a bell jingle, because they have the whole, we tie bells to the feet of our bodies just because it's an old superstition that if the bodies move, we can hear the bell jingling and know the bodies come to life. And the use of that just slight little sound, like just coming out of nowhere sometimes, it brought chills up my spine. And
totally.
And yeah, this film is just incredible. And the actress playing the body of Jane Doe, sitting on that slab the whole film and not moving and just pretending to be dead. That was a real actress. No, just fake body. That was her. And that took some talent just to be able to stay still and look like that the whole time.
I agree. And I think also when we look at that movie, talk about atmosphere done right.
Yeah.
Like you can build a villain. Like you start off with being like, oh, this young lady's a protagonist without her saying anything. And then she becomes the antagonist. You're unsure what happened to her. And then when you learn who she is, you're terrified of someone that doesn't even do anything.
You're right. A dead body.
How incredible is that for the other actors to react enough? We saw that in last year's We Need to Do Something.
Yeah.
To react to the unknown is incredible. And I think that's what sometimes we miss out in movies, is people's ability to create fear from just the atmosphere. And I think the Autopsy of Jane Doe does that perfectly.
Yeah, like this is probably one of the more terrifying films I had to sit through back in the day. Like, because it's still like one of those films where when I watch it, I just feel on edge the whole time. Even though I know what's coming, I still feel on edge.
Totally. No, I couldn't agree more. Excellent choice. My 48th film is one that I just watched. It's an Irish folklore film.
Nice.
It was recommended from, someone who I used to chat with, I guess, I'll say. And it's called The Hollows, 2015.
Great movie.
And this was recommended to me because I was interested in going to Ireland, and this person that I used to chat to or was chatting to told me about how I guess people who live in rural Ireland are very superstitious in some cases. And one of the things they fear is fairies. And I was like, oh, fairies. He's like, well, no, not those kind of fairies, Heather. Like, these are different kind of fairies. So I wanted to learn more. So he recommended this movie to me, told me it wasn't the best movie in the world. I disagree. I thought it was actually quite good. The sum of it is a couple relocates to rural Ireland. I think it's probably Northern Ireland. And it's an arborist. He's there to cut down trees. And he is warned that there's fairies that live in the woods that will, attack basically if you try to take what's theirs. And it's they do, by the way, and they're fucking scary. And it's a changeling story as well. And I spent a lot of that movie being like, is the father crazy or is he right? And there's a very emotional ending.
Yeah. And
I really felt for this family. It made me not want to hike in the woods by myself when I go to Ireland, and not run into fairies. So, but it's an excellent film. And I think that, I don't know if it's a well-known film. Like, I don't know if a lot of people have seen it, but if you like folklore, it's excellent. And it's a very, very good emotional kind of roller coaster with this young family and them trying to survive in this really superstitious environment. And I'm a big person into superstitions. I definitely have a lot of belief in superstitions, so it totally was up my alley.
This movie is awesome. I watched it the year it came out, and I think it had made my top 10 that year. And
Nice.
yeah, I you know me, I'm all about like the folklore, and like I love learning about like the mythical creatures from other countries and stuff like that. And to see movies with doing fairies in the way that they are actually presented in mythology instead of as like what we
the Disney
think
version,
they are.
right?
Yeah. Like, and these are scary. These are terrifying.
Yeah, they are.
They reminded me of the creatures from The Descent a bit.
Absolutely. No, great film. I thank that person for bringing it to my attention. Because it's one of my top films now, one of my top 50 for sure. Enjoy it.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I remember when you watched that and you're like, wow, this movie's really good. You need to see this.
Yeah, I was like, you need to see it. Like, I already seen it, Heather. Get to the program. So what's your 47, Scotty?
All right. My number 47 is a film from 2015 that we actually talked about on our podcast.
Ooh.
And that is We Are Still Here.
Oh, very nice.
One of the most craziest freaking, probably one of my favorite ghost stories out there. Like I've talked about on the show over and over again on that episode, but like I just love the concept of, typical ghost movies. You have this chill when the ghost is around. Not in this film. You feel heat. And I love the concept of that because these people were burned alive. So they are just crispy, burnt beings that are like killing in extremely violent ways, and probably one of the best performances from Larry Fessenden and Barbara Crampton.
Absolutely. Incredible.
Those two both did fantastic. Like when Larry Fessenden gets freaking possessed, it is creepy and terrifying, and the way he's talking and everything is just intense. Barbara Crampton dealing with the loss of her son, being just a mother that's, grieving, just phenomenal job. Special effects incredible, and third act is fucking insane.
Larry Fessenden is an actor that is highly underrated.
Yeah,
I saw him recently in Jugface 2013. Oh, yeah. Fuck, every movie he's in, like and I wonder if it's because he's a bigger dude and he's not like the most handsome man in the world, why he isn't recognized more. Because Hollywood is very superficial, because he is a fucking phenomenal actor.
Yeah, like and he's been in the industry, in the horror indie industry for quite some time, and like he just
is he good.
He's amazing. Like one of my favorite actors one of my favorite modern actors, I should say. Like
if he's in a movie, he's at least worth watching.
Yes,
you know what I mean. Like he's at least very entertaining in it, and I can't say more than what you said. I think this movie has some great jump scares. I think it sets the cold atmosphere very well.
Yes.
And I think you feel a lot of empathy for the ghost and for Barbara Crampton's character and the grief and everything else. This film is just fucking 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing.
Yeah, because every one of these films on my top 50 are 10 out of 10s.
Yeah. And yet again, these are our own personal top 10 out of 10s, people. Like these are just ones that we top 10 out of 10 enjoy. My 47th is not nearly as a deep film, but it is a film that came out on Shudder in 2019, and it's called Haunt.
Nice.
And I love this film unapologetically. I love this film. I love that they go to this fucking haunted house, and it's set up just like when you go to these campy roadsides fucking haunted houses, and you go through and this shit happens and you feel so bad for these kids. And I'll never forget the scene where the one kid makes it outside with that guy. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. Would you like to see what my face looks like?
Oh, it's so creepy.
It is fucking disturbing, and excellent movie to watch around Halloween. Love it, love it, love it. If you enjoy haunted houses and you want to watch a movie that's realistic to go into these not haunted houses with a budget, like it has a budget. It's not a cheaply fucking slapped together film. Like this is a well-made film. Check out Haunt. It's still on Shudder. So I think it's a Shudder exclusive, 2019.
Yeah, I believe it is. Yeah, this movie is really awesome and definitely one to watch around the Halloween season when the haunts are like big and popular right at that time of year. And yeah, this one is very creepy and definitely hits that whole, you don't know what you're doing. Like you don't know what you're walking into when you go into some of these haunted attractions.
Nope, not at all, right?
But yeah, great choice.
Thank you. And now I guess we're on to your 46.
All right. So my number 46 is a film from 2010, and it is one that some people may argue if it's horror or not. But, well, when you're dealing with the Black Death or Plague, I would call that horror. And that film is called Black Death from 2010.
Oh,
And
you
it is,
praised this movie many a time, Scotty.
yep, it was my back when Exploding Heads did their top 100 films of the decade. This was my number one film when like they were asking listeners for their top 100s. I just love this film. It's a very indie film, low budget, but I love that it's set in, the set in the past and dealing with the plague. You have these men that are hired by the church to I think they were like Knight Templars, but they were hired by the church to investigate this village that somehow has not suffered any deaths from this plague. And they are thinking,
Did they all get vaccines?
yes.
Sorry.
But yeah, they are going there and they find out that there is this woman that is like they heard that there's this woman that is basically a healer, and they are assuming she is a witch that is somehow like causing the plague but protecting her own little village. And so they go there to investigate it, and well, shit goes down, and it is a very tense, well acted film with some very brutal kills. I mean, there's a poor Sean Bean who seems to die in almost everything he's in, but he gets drawn and quartered by, like, where, if you don't know what that is, that's 4 horses are tied to each of your limbs, and then a whip is snapped and all horses go in different directions, ripping you in 4.
Oh man. Ugh.
So yeah, it's very intense film, but like very realistic with the way they handled the plague, like, and it's just a very harrowing story.
So everyone was in denial and no one wanted to get vaccines.
Exactly.
And they said it was a conspiracy, right?
Yes.
Well, how was there the plague if there was no cell towers?
It's only the flu, Heather.
Oh, okay.
It's just the flu.
My bad.
But no, this movie is incredible, and I love these period. You know me, I'm a big fan of period pieces, and this one, like, even though it's different themes, but I think this one would go well with The Witch as a double feature, just because it's in that kind of same period almost.
Well, that's good to know. I still haven't
not
seen
in the same
it.
period, but yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I think I will have to, because you've praised it many times, and I can't believe I've not watched it. So I'm gonna have to get on that this year.
Yeah, I can see you going, God, this is definitely a Scott movie.
Oh yeah, no, that's okay. I think that about a lot of things that I watch that you suggest to me. 46 for me is a movie that came out in 2019, and I think summed up the fucking toilet paper shortage and food shortage and all the other shit that was happening in March of that year. And it's called The Platform, and it's a Spanish masterpiece. One of the most heaviest hitting films I have watched that made so much sense for the time. Scotty and I had just made it to realize that COVID was not going to last for 2 weeks, I think, by the time we watched this movie. And I remember talking to him and being like, wow, this is fucking relevant. Wow.
Yeah.
I remember, Scott probably doesn't remember this, but one night we were chatting and he went to the store to get toilet paper, and he bought the last roll that was there, and he had people giving him like the evil eye in the checkout line.
I remember
and that. I remember, like, I look back on that now, and I'm probably talking more about the atmosphere more than the movie, but the movie is fucking incredible with the concept of food being lowered down, and if everyone just took what they needed, there'd be enough. But they shit on the table, literally they shit on the table that's being lowered. They shit on the people beneath them. There's this hierarchy of, you need to purge yourself now, or gorge yourself now, because you don't know if you will have nothing later, and people starve to death. And it's such a relevant, interesting concept. And you follow a couple of characters. There's 2 characters that are kind of your main characters, and then there's some sidebar ones. And it is a emotional fucking roller coaster. And international films do it best, man. They know how to hit you in the feels. And The Platform was my start of loving of Spanish films. So Platform is my number 46. So Scotty, what's your 45?
Great freaking movie. Because yeah, man, that movie is, that is a tough one to sit through. Yeah.
Right.
And well, I guess we're just gonna go with heavy for right now, because speaking of tough to sit through, this one we did on our very first episode of the podcast, and it's from 2019, and that is very nice. Lords of Chaos.
Awesome.
Oh man, this is, this was also argued as, would this be a horror film? Because it's basically a biopic of the black metal band Mayhem, and like what was going on with them behind the scenes, and like the murder that happened with the lead singer Erroneous. And holy shit, this is some of the most hardest to watch kills and suicide. Like they like it's a great, just interesting, like fascinating story of the fact that you're watching this going, this really fucking happened. Obviously, like, they expanded it to make it more for a movie.
Well, sensationalized it, right?
Yeah,
For sure.
that's the word I was looking for,
Yeah.
sensationalized. But holy shit, because this stuff did happen. And like the watching the character that his name was Death do his commit suicide in his room, that was one of the hardest things I had to sit through. And then one of the most harrowing experiences was watching I think it was Burzum, I think it was his name, but stabbing Erroneous when at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And because that was like one of the most brutal stabbings I have ever seen, and just realistic. And like there is a lot of, like, obviously, like I said, this is just a biopic, but what they show on this film is just freaking hard to watch, very hard to watch.
It is. You're right.
And the performances all around are incredible. Like this is like like I said, it feels like a horror film, but this is shit that happened in real life, and it's which makes it even more horrific.
Yeah, yes, it does. I think you summed it up perfectly. That film was incredible. The acting in it showed really who the best Culkin is when it comes to acting. Fucking phenomenal. The ending scene, that drag out death scene, is probably more realistic to what it actually looks like.
Yeah.
And it's heavy, but great movie. Deserves to be on the list.
Yeah.
Deserves to be on the list for sure. My 45th is The Descent, 2005. I really enjoyed the interaction between the women in this film. I really enjoyed how they're going on a trip, and I don't know, chaos happens in these caves. And there's the one scene where the one chick has to go underneath for all, like, I think it's like feces and shit. And she has to like hold her breath. And these creatures that sense by hearing, they can't see, but they can hear you. And it's awesome. And even the ending's fucking disturbing as shit. I didn't love the sequel as much, but I really did enjoy the first one. I thought that it was a great survival film. I love that it was a full female cast. It was great film. And that's why it's on my number 45.
Yeah, The Descent is an amazing movie, and one thing that I will give that film credit for, I mean, besides already just being a great film, but the tension that is built just from cave diving.
Yes.
The way it is shot and the way it is filmed, like, and the stuff, like where they are going, like what the situation they're in without the monsters is extremely dangerous. And just I could watch a movie like that without any monsters in it, and I would still be on the edge of my seat, because it's just like, it's intense, like what they're going through.
Well, and the fact that she knows that her best friend's having an affair with her husband too, right?
Yeah, then like the drama being added to it. Oh my god.
Like, it's just, there's so many layers to that film. For like a simple little survival film. Like, it's not really a film that's supposed to be overly deep, and it ends up having a lot of layers to it, and layers that are done right. I'm glad they didn't throw in someone fucking being pregnant randomly. Like, thank fucking God, right? Like, honestly, I feel like that's the go-to in every survival, and she's pregnant, right? Like every single fucking survival film. But yeah, what's your 44?
My number 44 is one that you'll probably be happy to hear is on the list, and that is 2008's Canadian Pontypool.
Nice.
This movie, once again, a low-budget film done right and taking the zombie concept in a completely different direction. And I just love the fact that, like, these people are getting infected because of words. And like,
yes, and the English language, which had a lot to do with, I think what people don't realize is that there's a lot of conflicts between French and English in Canada, because we have two official languages. Everything in Canada is in French and is in English. And I think that was a little bit of a Canadian thing, that if you're American or from another country, you didn't really get it, why English was infected and French was not. Like, but yeah.
Yeah, but like, man, intense zombie film. Didn't really show a lot of zombie action, but you didn't need to. Like, a lot of it was just over the radio, and I love that. Like, it's very simplistic and just perfectly done the way they did it.
Totally. I couldn't agree more. I think that film, and even the slow decline of the main characters who do get sick, is really, really well done. And yet again, building intensity without being outside. We saw this as well, and we need to do something. And I think a lot of people sometimes push movies like that aside because they don't have the bells and whistles, and they don't have the over top special effects, but these films are able to build an atmosphere without all that. And that's real talent, that's real talent from a director, writer, and actor standpoint. So, and set the sign as well too, because you have to have a believable set where you've left kind of things at. My number 44 is The Conjuring, 2013.
Nice.
I had to give respect to the original, to the beginning. That movie scared the fuck out of me the first time I saw it. Like, that's where jump scares, I felt like the jump scares there were great, and then every other Conjuring movie I just feel like I'm walking through a house at Niagara Falls, right? But this movie, I feel like, because it was the beginning of it, really stood with me. You felt really bad for the family, specifically the little girl that was being targeted. There's the cellar scene where she's climbing in the basement and shit, like Lorraine and stuff, and it's creepy, like it's scary. And I really appreciate The Conjuring because of that and what it started. Not so much necessarily the sequels. I'm not a huge fan of the Whataverse or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
it's okay. Like, don't get me wrong, it's okay. Like, I like The Nun. I didn't mind Curse of La Lorna. Like, I didn't mind The Conjuring. What are we at, 3 now? Conjuring 3. I enjoyed the Annabelle movies. Like, they're fine. But I had to give The Conjuring the respect that it deserves, because if I just go back and think about that movie, I thought it was fucking awesome at the time.
Yeah, it was very very well done, and once again, just good use of like just tension.
Yeah, absolutely. And good jump scares. Like, that's, I felt like in that one, jump scares, they relied on it, but it was fresh. And now it's just like every Conjuring movie is just jump scares.
Oh,
like, you're just going to be doing jump scares for 2 hours. So, which is fine, you know, if that's what you like, but I think the first one did it best. So let's move on to 43.
All right, so my number 43, we are going back to 1995.
Oh man.
And definitely one of the well-known anthologies, and one of my probably, I think, top 4 anthologies of all time, and that is Tales from the Hood.
That was on my list, and I just took it off the last minute. So that's awesome.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Man, this film is just like, watching it as a like horror film, it is just heavy and dark and has just some great stories. Then you put in the racial context that is in this film, that is why they made this film, and how relevant it is to this day is just very uncomfortable. Like, they sprinkle in comedy here and there, but it's not enough to just like ease what you are watching.
Well, especially
the
police brutality, right? Because it's still very relevant today. Like, nothing's really changed. It's a great fucking anthology. Awesome.
Like, every story in it is fucking solid, and the wraparound is very awesome.
Amazing. Like,
Clarence William III playing the caretaker. It's just so you could tell he's having fun with that role, and he's just dark and creepy at the same time.
Amazing.
And like, when you look at the cover of this, you're going, oh, this is just going to be so generic and cheesy, because it's just a skull with a gold tooth and sunglasses. And you're like, oh God, this is going to be so cheesy. Then you watch it and you're going, damn, okay, no, this is not cheesy.
Heavy.
Like, it's very heavy. Yeah. And I watched this when it first came out, and obviously, like, the subtext just right over my head because I was really young.
Yeah.
But watching it as I got older, I'm just like, fuck.
As a grown-up Scotty, it hits a little different, doesn't it?
It definitely does. Yeah.
No, I couldn't agree. I was really glad when I watched that. I remember I thought it was going to be a light watch.
Yeah. No.
Not a light watch.
Not at all.
So it's funny because my 43 is also an anthology, but it's from 1972, and it's Tales from the Crypt.
Nice.
It's definitely the story about the man that dies and the woman doing the wishes with the monkey paw and her final wish. If you've listened to our top 5 anthologies, you know how much I love that story. Fucking nails it for me. Like, that story alone nails it, because the thought of what you wish for and what happens, and that coming true to someone who you care about, is fucking devastating. Like, I can't think of a scarier ending to something that person has to fully forever live in pain, and there's no escape, like no escape from it. How, like, it still leaves me speechless. Anyway.
Well,
so,
and that, once again, that's an anthology that has amazing stories all around. Like, you have the Santa Claus story that got redone in the early 90s with the Tales from the Crypt series. Then there's the what was it, I think there was 4 stories. I can't remember the second one off the top of my head, but then the third one was the one you were talking about with the monkey paw, and then the 4th one was a caretaker gets hired to take care of the blind, and he's just torturing them and cutting costs left and right, and they get revenge, and oh my God, it's amazing.
Well, and all the people are in purgatory, right? And they're having to learn about what their past sins were before they go to hell. It's really interesting. It's a really fascinating concept, and especially for 1972. So glad I watched it this year. It was a first time, or last year, first time watch for me in 2021. Really, really enjoyed it. What's your 42nd, Scotty?
All right, so my number 42 is 1988. Actually, the first remake on my list, 1988's The Blob.
I was thinking you were going to say that when you said my first remake.
Yeah, this movie is just awesome. I mean, it's totally 80s, but the special effects cannot be denied here. The way they created this monster, and it just looks so fucking good. And the kills in it are all done practically and just look amazing. And this is one of those films where you don't know who is safe in this film, because this creature even has killed off kids that were like part of the main story for a bit. And I mean, it's directed by Frank Darabont, and he's a great director, and maybe we'll be talking about him again down the road. But he's just he nailed this movie. It's freaking awesome. I love the special effects in it like so much, and like I was once again. I was scared to look down a drain, like of a sink, for the longest time after seeing this movie. And
I'm still scared because you never know what's down that drain.
Right, I was gonna say, and then Stephen King's It came out in 1990, and it reinforced the whole being scared of looking down a drain of a sink.
You can't even walk past sewers. You're just completely scared of everything. No, excellent remake. Especially like you're right, that scene where she's in the kitchen or he's in the kitchen. It's a guy that gets it, right? Yeah, she walks in and sees it. That's a great scene. Great special effects for 1988. Still entertaining to watch today.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My film is also a 1988 film. It's part of a franchise. I didn't have the same rule Scott did. There was a couple of franchises that did get mentioned multiple times. And this one is Friday the 13th, part 7. And I unapologetically love fucking part 7. So everyone can bite me if you don't like this movie. I love, what's her face in it? The chick that's like Carrie, but not Carrie.
Yeah.
That fucking shit is mint. Okay. Like her mind game, it's like real mind games that people play. I feel like I've had that played with me recently. And I'm Jason, and I'm not mad about it. I'm getting real fucking pissed about the mind games. I digress. So this is great. Like the part I'm thinking of is when she does something to him. I forget what it is. I think she burns him or something, and like he gets really mad. He's like, "I'm gonna fuck this bitch up." You know what part I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
And he like comes after her. Kane Hodder is great. Like he's awesome in this role. And I love how she's the first one to really take him on and inflict real damage in him and stand up to him, because everyone else up to this point has run away.
Yeah.
And their concept, like I guess in the end of part 6, Tommy, paddles out to the middle of the lake and has that big fight with Jason in the boat. But it's not the same as for the females. Like this was the first female that's like, I don't fuck with you. Right? And I fucking love it. I can watch it. And then when her dad comes up from the dock at the end and grabs him, and like, I love that shit. Fucking love that movie. I love part 7. And you wouldn't think that by the time you got to a part 7 in the movie, it would be fun. And I think either people love this movie or they hate this movie. And I love it. I think the telekinesis idea was fucking brilliant. And I thought it made it for a real entertaining watch.
Yeah, this movie is a lot of fun. Like I'm shocked to hear it on your top 50 because I didn't realize you liked it.
You didn't probably know I realized that I liked it that much, did you?
No, not at all. I knew you probably liked it, but I didn't think that much. But
I love the chick. I want that to be me.
But yeah, that is awesome because it is by far the best looking Jason, especially without the mask as well. John Carl Buechler's effects in that are incredible because the detail that they went into and showing all of the damage that Jason has been dealt throughout all the movies up to this point and showing it on his character like that, it was freaking awesome. And like I would love to see the unrated cut, but we unfortunately will never will because it got cut, and then I think the uncut footage got destroyed somehow. But there's supposed to be a lot more violence and gore and practical effects. But still, this movie is a lot of fun. Like definitely one of my favorites in the franchise. Like
her name's Tina, by the way, right? The final girl, Tina.
That's what it was. Okay.
Yeah. But I sat here staring at you as you were talking, going, Tina.
Tina.
And it was so fucking good. And that chick that plays the real bitch was awesome. The girl that's like fucking horrible. She was a great little actress, actually. There were some not bad teen actors in that movie. And you really do like hate the doctor and shit. Like it's a really good film. It's I don't know. It's a really good Friday the 13th film. I think we should all give it a shot. All right, Scotty, what's your 41?
My number 41. Well, I will start off by just saying, I got good news and bad news, girls. Your dates are here. Bad news is they're dead. That is Night of the Creeps, 1986.
Yeah.
Oh, this movie is just so much fun. It's a silly sci-fi B movie style concept with these parasitic worms that like turn people into zombies by jumping into their mouths and controlling them. But it's just
I feel like men do that to me all the time. Sorry.
Good Lord. Oh, okay. One of my favorite roles by Tom Atkins. Tom Atkins is charismatic and awesome and everything. But it's got just a great cast of characters and plays out like your typical like college comedy style movie, and then add in the like B movie style like horror stuff that's going on. This movie is just so much fun and I can just watch this over and over and over again. It is just a blast from beginning to end.
Yeah, it's a fun film. And Tom Atkins, man, like, you know what I mean? You can't go wrong when Tom Atkins in a movie. He's great.
Yeah, everything he does, he's amazing
right.
in it.
Well, I'm going to choose something that isn't nearly as well done, but I loved it. I remember I worked at a summer job, and I used to work in the resource room, and I used to have to work late some nights, and it was for like a career center, and I would go on IMDb or whatever the website was at the time to look at movies that were coming out. And I waited a year for this movie to come out, and I counted down the months, and that was fucking Freddy versus Jason, and it is my number 41 from 2003. And yeah. I was this movie, it would have mattered how stupid it was. All right. It would have mattered what fucking plot they threw. I didn't give a fuck what the plot looked like. I didn't give a fuck what actors they got in it. I just wanted to see Freddy and Jason fight. Isn't that what we all wanted to see? Was Freddy and Jason fight. That's all we wanted to see.
And they delivered.
And they delivered. There was some great fucking fight scenes. One of my favorite is when he goes into Jason's dream and they're fighting in the dream. And then the water comes and Jason turns into a child.
Oh, yeah.
And you feel bad for Jason. They actually made Jason kind of like this anti-protagonist that you kind of were like, well, they're both assholes, but now I want Jason to win because Freddy's being a real bully. And I thought that was really clever. I love the scene in the junkyard where they're fighting. I think it's fucking phenomenal. I don't know, like it's cheesy as shit. Okay, the Freddy versus Jason is not a good movie. I will never sit back and be like, oh man, one of the best all-time fucking horror films. But I love the fighting between the two of them. I love it. I could watch it over and over and over again to watch them fight, and I love those fight scenes. And that's what I went there for. That's what I waited in line to see. That's what I waited a year for, and I was very satisfied. I was very happy with the outcome. Jason walking with Freddy's head, and he winks at the audience, just tells you that these are two franchise leaders. Like people like to argue who won. What a dumb fucking argument.
Right.
Why would you argue that? They're both internal. Both won.
Yeah,
you know who lost?
Win.
Humans.
Yeah.
Because they're going to keep dying. Like, honestly, I never ever got that debate of who won when it's so clearly that they're both franchise legends and eternal evil that neither one of them are going to fucking die.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need, like, we always joke, Scott and I, like, you know, when we came up with Friday Nightmares, mine was the Freddy piece of it. His was the Friday piece of it. But like Scott and I aren't like, oh my God, the Nightmare on Elm Street films and the Friday 13th films are the best films in the entire world. Like you will never hear Scott and I do that. We enjoy those series, but we enjoy both of the series. We just chose that because one of us seemed to be a little more into Freddy and one of us seemed to be a little bit more into Jason. And that's why we came up with that fucking name. Like it wasn't anything like, and we wanted something that was different. So I guess Freddy versus Jason is really Scott versus Heather.
Yeah, pretty much. I love it.
And that's why it's number 41 on my list. So yeah, Scotty,
I have to say I've seen this movie 3 times in theaters. So yeah, I love this movie. Right. It's not the greatest of either of the franchises, but it is a dumb popcorn film. They somehow figured out a way to actually bring these icons together. And the only complaint I will ever have with that film, that film, is that I wish Freddy would have been able to kill more than just one person. Like, because he only kills the blonde haired kid.
No, the Destiny's Child chick. He kills her.
Nope.
No, Jason kills her. Yeah,
Jake,
you're right. Jason kills her.
Yeah, because he had Jason killer. But like, no, Jason, like, I do love the idea that, Jason stole his first kill, which was gonna help cause more fear in the world to like bring him back, and he got pissed, so he went after Jason for that. I love that concept because, like he said, like he said as Jason's mother in that, you're just like a big dumb dog that doesn't know how to stop eating.
It's really funny, and Jason's like those lines are great, and Robert Englund delivering them is fucking mint. Like he just anyway. Not that I think he's the only one that could be Freddy Krueger. We've had this dance before, but it's just such a fucking fun film. Like it really is, and it's not meant to be taken seriously. Like they threw together a fucking plot to watch two people fight. Like
exactly.
Right?
It's just a fun film. Like nothing. I don't find it like offensive at all.
No. Well, there's one line in it that you kind of are like, Kelly Rowland, did you really need to say that? But you know what? It was 2003, and I said a lot of stupid shit in 2003 too.
Right.
I'm just lucky it's not on film.
Right.
I'll put it like that. So we live and learn, right? We live and learn.
All right. So I guess we are moving on to number 40. So number 40 for me, we're going back to the 90s again. 1992's Candyman.
Oh, Smoke Show. Smoke Show. And Scott shows up and tells you to watch Gremlins.
Watch it. It's amazing. But I mean, this movie, it's a classic for a reason. There is a reason why it was relevant back then and is still relevant now with the story. And I love the concept of this urban mythology that you have this like student going to just kind of learn about it and going to one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Chicago, especially at that time. Mm-hmm. And like the setting alone is like a character of the story. Like
agreed.
Cabrini Green is just like, it just is dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. And you can see that just by walking around, like just by what they showed in the film. And like, it's like, I just love everything about this. Tony Todd is incredible and like just creepy as Candyman himself. Like it's just his performance in this is amazing. Granted, like God, I'm doing terrible with actors and actresses' names today, but like the woman that plays Helen, like she did good, but like I wouldn't say like amazing. But like but I do love that basically like Candyman is seducing her and just kind of like manipulating her, kind of like I was talking about with Chucky earlier, manipulating them.
Totally.
But man, this story I've watched it a few times when it first came out, and then I watched it a lot because I covered it on different podcasts as guest spots and stuff throughout the last couple of years. And man, I just love this film more and more. The more and more I watch it.
The scene with the baby at the end, and man, is it emotional, right?
Yeah.
And it was a great tie-in, by the way, to 2021's.
Yes.
I enjoyed that throwback, and I don't care what anyone says.
No, 2021 was also an amazing movie, and
but how they connected the baby, right? I think that was really smart.
Well, how they connected everything from those two movies, and
it was amazing.
Yeah, great sequel to the original.
Absolutely,
but yeah, this movie incredible. Like Tony Todd is an icon now for a reason because of this film.
You mean it's not from Final Destination or Urban?
I mean, it might be partly now. I mean, he's been in that. He played that character more than he played Candyman.
Right. I agree, Scotty. My number 40 is also from the 90s. It is 1994. And it is the Wes Craven movie that saved the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. And that is The New Nightmare. I think The New Nightmare was fucking brilliant. And I will stand by that for as long as I live. He broke down, what do you say, the fourth wall?
Yeah.
Right.
And this was like the first meta movie.
Not the third wall. That's what I have. Yeah. I have a third wall and then I have a fourth wall. They broke down the fourth wall. And it was that part where the little kid is in the hospital and his babysitter gets fucking killed is graphic as fuck. And I loved how Heather Langenkamp played herself, Robert Englund played himself, Wes Craven played himself. Like, love that movie. Now, it is a little long. Sometimes when you do watch it, it kind of drags out at parts a little bit. But the ending scene of the showdown between this like complete fucking really fucked up demon version of Freddy Krueger, like he was bad, but this version of Freddy is even fucking darker. And it's incredible. Incredible. Yeah. It was a brilliant concept at the time and one of my favorite films.
Yep. And some would say laid the groundwork for Scream.
Yes, for
And
sure.
yeah, this is a very good, like this was a good way to breathe life back into this franchise
Yep.
instead of making Freddy Krueger the comedian that he became. Like it
Yeah,
took him back to being terrifying again.
absolutely. Right. So yeah, New Nightmare 1994. All right. So what is your number 39?
My number 39, I've talked about this on our show a couple different times as well. In fact, talked about it in our top 5 with 1970s films with Mr. Android Virus, and that is Let Sleeping Corpses Lie from 1974, or Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue. And plenty of other titles, but this is just an all-around amazing zombie film with a unique concept about how this machine that produces radiation to wipe out like insects and pests somehow ends up waking the dead. And these zombies are extremely creepy. They're the old school slow moving zombies, but they are brutal in what they do. And it is just an incredible zombie film. Like I said, I've talked about it a bunch of different times. We've even had it on, like it was one of the films in our zombie episode that we've discussed way back in the day. So I won't get into too much detail because, yeah, I've talked about it enough. But yeah, 1974's Let Sleeping Corpses Lie.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, mine will definitely be near and dear to your heart and may come up on your list later. It is The Fog, 1980.
Ooh, not on my list.
I love this film. I think I love Tom Atkinson and Jamie Lee Curtis, and is it Adrienne Barbeau?
Yep.
Fuck, they're so great in this movie. And I love the creepy ghost story behind it of this town, and how Jamie Lee Curtis kind of just like shows up and all this shit's going down. And she's like, what the fuck? Right? Like it's so good. It's like what a classic 1980s ghost story should be. Mm-hmm. And what you can do with very little special effects. Now, this is one where I would say the special effects probably don't hold up as well nowadays. You can, like, the ghosts are a little cheesy, but I think that for 1980 they were awesome. And I think as a time capsule from 1980, this is a great fucking movie. So that is my number 39.
Nice. It's a really good movie. It would be in my top 100. It did not make my top 50. But man, this movie is great. I do love that the whole pirate ghosts, like leprous pirate ghosts. And like that scene in the church where the like the head of the ghost kind of walks in and confronts the priest, and you just see the glowing red eyes and just like the intense showdown where it grabs a hold of the cross and the cross starts burning.
Do you think the ghosts were upset because they got ghosted? Because I feel like that's what I'm gonna do one of these.
Oh, that's great.
Anyway, what was your number 38?
Well, my number 38, I have a feeling maybe on your list somewhere. We'll find out. But that is 2017's Jordan Peele directed Get Out.
Oh, not on my list.
What?
I know.
Wow.
Would be in my top 100 though. Because the rewatchability for that one for me is not as high. Because I feel like once you know the twist, I feel that with a lot of Jordan Peele movies. Once you know the twist, it makes it like an incredible one-time watch, but it's hard to rewatch it with the same, unless you're like looking for like, oh, where are the signs? But like, I'm sorry, you Get Out, they're pretty fucking clear.
They are, but like that's the difference for me is every time I've rewatched this, I've liked it more and more and more.
For sure.
But yeah, just an incredibly well done film. Amazing first time horror film from Jordan Peele. No wonder he is well known in our genre as he is now. Like, this covers racism in such a great way.
It does.
Like, and the characters in it are all just amazing at what they do. The performances are just great. Like, it's funny, it's awkward, it's uncomfortable. And I love that they kind of brought back the old like 1950s style evil scientist with what is happening at the end. Like you don't get those types of films very often anymore, but there had been kind of like a small resurgence around that time. And but yeah, this film, just incredible all the way around. I love the music in it. I love everything about it. Like, this is my favorite Jordan Peele film.
That's awesome. I'm glad you brought it to the table. It is fucking phenomenal. Jordan Peele. Can't wait for Nope this year.
Yes, I'm so excited to see what that is.
See what that is, right? My 38 film is a 1988 film. You brought it up briefly earlier when we talked about one of the characters. Waxwork.
Nice.
I thought that it was a really, really brilliant film that you would go to this wax museum, which Scott and I did go to a wax museum.
We did.
We didn't get sucked in, as far as
unfortunately.
we know. Unfortunately, to any of the scenarios. And I just thought it was really clever how these people got sucked into different areas and how there wasn't a happy ending. Some of them died.
Yeah.
And they didn't come back. Like I was like, fuck, like at the end, I thought they were all going to show back up again, and they didn't. And that was really shocking to me. It's like a sci-fi adventure horror flick. And I don't want to give too much away. I think most people have seen Waxwork, but if for some reason you've skipped it, this is a really fun one from the 80s that I really recommend that you check out.
Yeah, this, like, I know you don't agree with me on this one, because I think when you told me you watched it, I said this, but it kind of reminds me of an anthology, just because like when they get sucked into different dioramas, it's basically like another short stories.
Yeah, right.
And I do love I love that David Warner is the owner of the Waxworks, and like he's creepy, but I've always loved this film. I watched it when I was younger. Has a really cool werewolf in it. Has like a really creepy zombie story in it. Like, I mean, it has Zach Galligan from freaking Gremlins. I mean, how can I not love it? But yeah, just another in the third act when all the wax sculptures come to life and they're having to fight them off and everything. Fucking great.
And the Marquis de Sade thing in it is really sexual.
Yeah.
I was not prepared for that, where that went. I'll be honest. I was really shocked when they had that in there. I'm like, this is not a kid's movie. This is definitely not a kid's movie. So that was my number 38. So what is your 37, Scott?
All right. My number 37. I will just start off by saying, boy. And that is Phantasm from 1979. Once again, another one we talked about in the top 5 1970s horror films. I just love the concept of this very weird alien-like being that is coming here to collect bodies to turn them into his little minions that he can use as basically slaves in his other dimension. Angus Scrimm, just so tall and creepy and intimidating as this like freaking mortician that's like not from this world. And it's such a weird movie, but man, it works on so many levels for me. Like, and
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Reggie Bannister is such a great character that you're just constantly rooting for through the entire franchise. Like, but yeah, this movie is just very creepy, weird, and unsettling. And it's definitely not the best performances around, but man, this movie is just so much fun. I love it.
You play a good game, boy, but now you die.
Yeah, and then the whole freaking the flying sentinel spheres. Those things are just, it's such a weird weapon.
Awesome. It's awesome funness. I love it. I'm so glad you brought that to the table. It's up there in my top 100.
Nice.
Awesome film. Mine I stayed a little bit more modern with, and it's a film with Barbara Crampton as well. Actually, I believe this was her first film back, and she credits these directors with giving her break back into horror movies, and it's Your Next, 2011.
Nice.
Fucking awesome survival film, and the chick in this movie is an underrated final girl.
Yeah,
she is resourceful, she is intelligent, she's kind, and when she finds out the twist with her partner, she's fucking pissed. And it's a really, really good film. It really explores family dynamic. The kills in it are out of this world good. You feel for the people doing the killing because you realize that they're family as well, and it's just family versus family, and it's fucked up. Like, it really, really is fucked up. Great film. If you haven't watched it, Your Next, 2011, check it out.
Yeah, great home invasion, great just violent horror film. Like, and yeah, awesome return of Barbara Crampton.
Awesome. She's given those guys credit, actually.
Yeah, because this was the film that brought her back.
Right. So I think that's really awesome that she was able to come back, because honestly, I know people love her when she was younger, but when she was younger, it was just about her body. Like, let's be real talk here.
Yeah.
And I think now that she's a more mature woman, she's still a very beautiful woman. Women don't get less beautiful as they age, despite what society may tell us.
Right.
But I think what has happened is she's been able to flex her acting chops a little bit more.
Yeah.
And now she's being recognized for the talents that she actually has.
Yeah.
And I think that's nice, that she's being seen more than a nice pair of tits. Like, let's be, not to be vulgar here, but like, let's be real. That's what she was seen as. But right, exactly. she's being seen as someone who can fucking carry her own. Jacob's Weiss, You're Next, We're Still Here. She's nailing a lot of these roles, and she's definitely
she absolutely
worth watching,
is.
right? So,
all right, so we're on number 36.
We sure are.
Wow. All right. So my number 36 from is a camp slasher film from 1983, and that is Sleepaway Camp.
Nice. That's awesome.
This movie, while does not stand the test of time with like what it reveals at the end with the transphobia and all that, but at the same time, this is still a good slasher, and kind of a good discussion can be had from like nature versus nurture, and like the raising of Angela to becoming who she is by her crazy aunt. And
totally.
But like the kills are so fun and 80s. The like the characters that get killed in this all are despicable and deserve it. And I mean, at the time, it was like that reveal at the end was completely shocking because you didn't expect it. And also it was kind of a good whodunit style slasher, because
absolutely,
like if you didn't know what was going on, you thought it was Ricky the whole time for the longest part of that movie.
Absolutely, you did. Absolutely.
But yeah, this is just a great slasher, especially for its time, and did something that no other film did at that time.
I agree 100% with you. I remember talking about this ending in Dairy Queen with my girlfriend.
Yeah, I remember you telling that story to me.
And people were staring at me, and she was embarrassed. I was like, whatever. And it was a great film. And also, let's just shout out Felicia Rose, because one of the nicest, what I understand, is constantly kind to all of her fans.
Yes.
When I went to the convention in Niagara Falls, she was the only person with a lineup.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
And I think that speaks to who she is as an individual, and not the best actress out there, but bless her heart, she made this movie, and she's fucking ran with it.
Yeah.
And she's made money off of it, and good for her.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And I've seen some of the India stuff she's been in. It's okay. It is what it is, but I think her as a person is much more impressive. And, I really want to give a shout out to that. And I think this movie definitely was one of the better camp slashers that came out.
Oh, for sure.
My number 36 is a movie that when I saw, I really dig original concepts. I really like movies that break a mold and do something different. And when this movie came out, I really thought it was doing something different. And it's called The Strangers from 2008.
Nice.
And I remember watching this film and thinking, what would I do if that was me? And I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah.
Because they set it up that there's no cell service. She loses her cell phone. They take her cell phone. And these people are just stalking this guy and this girl. Like, they were going to get engaged. She said no. They're having this awkward time at the house. Like, it is, their friend gets killed who comes to check on them. They kill him accidentally. Like, it is a fucking, and then she wakes up at the end screaming. It is a emotional fucking film. And I even like the sequel, Strangers Play at Night, by the way, too. That probably would have been on my top 100, because I think that's a great fucking slasher.
Yeah,
like, you feel for the mom and the family and the brother and the sister. And like, it's, both of those are great films. But I think when The Strangers came out, it was unique to me. And it showed that Liv Tyler could act. To be honest with you, I didn't think she was that great of a fucking actress until that film. And her boyfriend or fiance, you just fucking feel for throughout this entire film, and the creepiness of like the characters just appearing behind you in the dark,
in the background. Yeah.
Like, oh man, fucking, to me, that when that came out in 2008, I was like, finally something fucking different, something entertaining. And I like that. I like when movies take risks and they do something different. And yeah, so that's why that's at my number 36.
Great freaking movie. Yeah, this would be in my top 100 for sure. Probably same with the sequel. But yeah, like you were saying, like, it's one of those where it's that subtle, like, if you blink and you miss it, but they're, they'll be in the background for a split second just watching, and then they're gone.
Yeah, and atmosphere. That's why this movie has rewatchability for me, because you may miss something other times, and then you go back and you rewatch it. But what's your number 35, Scott?
My number 35, we are going to 1980 and talking about a film that, well, I know you find this man attractive, and it is a very deep character study, and that film is Maniac.
Oh, my boyfriend. Yeah.
This film is, for one, very heavy. Like, it's very uncomfortable. You are pretty much watching a man that is pretty much completely out of control, he's completely off his rocker, but you see like the semblance of him trying to have a normal life like are trying to be somewhat normal, and he just can't do it because his urges are too strong. And there's the whole backstory about how he was basically abused by his mother, and so like, and that's why he's kind of fucked up like he is. But this film is just grimy, it's gross. Joe Spinell, like, amazing fucking actor, and like he plays Frank Zito like so fucking well. Like you're just like, I would not want to meet this guy like in a dark alley. Like he's terrifying. And he, but at the same time, he's just a normal dude. Like
you feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
I think this is yet another, again, an example of a film where you feel sorry for the antagonist. Like you feel bad for him. Doesn't excuse what he does, of course, but you do have a level of empathy for him for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's just the level of acting from Joe Spinell, like that just makes that. And this movie, like it captures that gritty, grimy New York setting, like that was back in the 80s, and it's done so fucking well. Like, but yeah, this movie, when I watched it for the first time, probably like 15 years ago, I was just like, whoa, this is really heavy. And I've watched it more and more. Like every time I've watched it, I like it more and more and more. And it's one of those films that sticks with me.
It absolutely does, right? I'm glad that you brought it to the table. Maniac is a fucking phenomenal film. It could get brought up again. You never know.
Right.
So I would say that my number 35 is not nearly as a well-acted film, but to me, it really does sum up the 1990s. And Scott constantly quotes this film when I say, tell people to sign up for Legion Patreon. And that is I Know What You Did Last Summer, 1997.
What are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for? So, this is just a great teenage drama. You know, it had the hottest stars at the time. Like we're talking hot TV stars they put into this, and movie stars. And they put these four characters, two of them are married now and still married.
Yeah.
Freddie and Sarah, still married. So that's awesome. And they, had this unfortunate car accident where they hit somebody and they try to cover it up, and it comes to haunt them a year later. And it is just so good. It is such a well done, entertaining fucking film. Do I think it's the best film in the entire world? No. I'm sure when people who are big 80s horror fans, like if I was my age now going back to watch this film, I'd be like, what the fuck is this shit? But because it came out when I was like, 14 years old, I was like, this shit is the bomb. Right? So I have a nostalgia for it. And I think that just sums up, even movies that we see today where people are like, it's all the teenagers and stuff. Well, yeah, like so was I Know What You Did Last fucking summer. I hate to break it to you. And so was Urban Legends. It was just entertaining shit that you watched, right? And you are having a nostalgia for that. Guess what? This is, there's someone in your house is that for somebody else for now. That came out on Netflix last year. So
yeah.
Anyway, that's my number 35 is I Know What You Did Last Summer.
That's great. Like I've watched that movie so much when I growing up as a teen.
Right. And it's such a easy movie to watch and see. So
it definitely is.
Right. What is your number 34, Scotty?
My number 34 is a film from 2015. And it's one that I watched a couple different times and took a bit to get into. But then by the second viewing, I was like, okay, I really like this movie. And then the third viewing, we did it for our podcast. And I was going, I fucking love this movie. And that is 2015's The Invitation.
Fuck yeah, great fucking film.
Man, talk about another film with tense drama, like from everybody meeting up in the awkward situation of, an ex-husband and ex-wife coming back together, going to an ex-wife's house party after losing their son a couple years later, but in him bringing his new girlfriend and the situation she's put into. And just like the whole, well, where was my ex-wife? Why was she gone for so long? And then you find out oh yeah, she did this and she was on a retreat. And you find out that it's about a cult. And it's basically a story about what some people will do to help get past grieving by finding solace in a community. Unfortunately, this community is quite fucked up.
Yes, it is.
And man, when things start unraveling towards that third act, it is just jaw-dropping what happens. And then that final scene with the red lights turning on throughout, you see the red lights turning on all over the fucking mountainside. And it's just like, oh, fuck, this isn't just happening here. This is happening all over.
Yeah.
And man, what a just well done, well directed, well acted fucking movie. The story is incredible, and like the character development and the character arcs and the relationships between everybody is just so well done.
Couldn't agree more. Excellent fucking film. Excellent
Yeah.
film. Shouts out to Brandon Orlick. One of his favorite movies of all
Mhm.
time. He was the one that got me to watch it, and I really enjoyed it. Yes, he's really, really well acted film. Mine is not a really well acted film.
We're seeing the pattern here.
It's also from 1997, and it was the first horror movie I ever owned, and it is Scream 2.
Nice.
And I owned it on VHS, and loved it. I loved Neve Campbell's haircut in it quite a bit, and her leather jacket that she rocked throughout the entire. I actually like used to try to be that look, especially now as like an adult. Like that's the look I want to emphasize. I loved this movie. I loved the relationship between her and her boyfriend. I loved the killer concept in this movie. I enjoyed how it was set on a university campus. I really thought, Neve Campbell can act. She's been in stage plays in London.
Yeah.
Chick has acting chops. So I don't think anyone should watch Scream and put that as her capabilities, because she does play a pretty basic character, to be honest, right? But it's a very, formulaic film, and there's some funny lines in it. My favorite is when Randy gets asked, "What's your favorite scary movie?" and he goes, "Showgirls." Like, I think that's really fucking funny. Yeah. And like, I think if you've seen Showgirls, I'm not a stripper, I'm a dancer. I think you know exactly what he's talking about. And this movie just kind of stuck with me. I enjoyed the reveal at the end, and I really think that opening scene with Jaded Pinkett in the movie theater with Omar Epps is fucking awesome. And I just don't know. I think this is where kind of Scream peaked for me. Honestly, if there had just been 1 and 2, I would have been fine with that. As much as I enjoy 3 and 4, and I do enjoy 3 and 4, I think 1 and 2 is definitely like the golden child, except for 5, which Scotty has praised, and we should all run out and see right now.
Chef's kiss.
So yeah, Scream 2 is my number 34.
Nice. Definitely. I am a fan of part 2. I do enjoy the characters in that, and god dang it, once again I'm drawing a blank on the actors. Timothy Olyphant as one of the killers. I fucking love him as that character.
Right. Excellent.
But yeah, that is a good one. And I had a feeling I would at least hear that one on your list somewhere.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
All right. So 2015 again for number 33. Gotta get ready for this.
All right.
So yes, my number 33 is Deathgasm.
Still haven't seen it.
Oh my god, you need to watch this movie.
I know.
It is so ridiculous and amazing. It is basically Evil Dead with heavy metal, like with heavy metal. And that it's New Zealand style too, so it reminds me also of like has a bit of Dead Alive style humor from Peter Jackson in it as well. But man, this is just a great fun film. Like bunch of like loner metalhead dude like ends up meeting up with this other metalhead dude. They decide to form a band with 2 dorks that play D&D. I can relate. But and they create a band called Deathgasm, and they end up one of their favorite bands. They find out one of the musicians is like, I think the lead singer is living in their hometown, so they go and find his house, but he's not there, or they think he's not there, so they break into the house and like are just kind of looking around, and they find an old record. So they pick up the record, and there is this musical sheet in there, and they're going, "Oh, some like song that they maybe wrote, but they never did. This band never did. We're gonna take it and play the song." And they play the song, and it ends up pretty much awakening. I think it was called the Blind One, but awakening this demon that starts possessing everybody in their town and turning them into these demonic monsters. And it is so gory and over the top and hilarious. Like this is where I like, it reminds me of Evil Dead Dead Alive, because it has like the slapsticky style humor mixed with the over the top gore. And if you ever want to see 2 dudes beating the shit out of demons with giant double-headed dildos and anal beads as nunchucks, this will be the movie for you.
This sounds like my movie. I can see why you think I should watch it.
And it's just got a great soundtrack, and it's just so much fun. And is such a fucking blast. Like, I can't recommend this movie enough. And yeah, I am excited for the day that you decide to watch this, and I want to hear your thoughts, because you're gonna be like, yeah, this is a Scott movie.
I already know it's a Scott movie. The moment you said two nerds playing D&D and dildos, I was like, this is totally Scott's.
And dildos, yes.
This is totally Scott's movie right here. My number 33 is not as funny. It's actually pretty dark. It's called Oculus from 2013.
Oh,
and I think Oculus, when I first saw that Oculus was coming out, it was partly funded through WWE Studios. And if we've seen the gems that come out of WWE Studios, man. Probably See No Evil is probably their other, like, and I'm going to put this in quotations, decent film.
Right.
Really strong quotations there. That being said, I was like, fuck, who helped make this movie? And then I realized it was a Flanagan film, and I'm like, oh, maybe this is why it wasn't a piece of shit. Because it's a great story about a haunted mirror that basically tricks you into doing things or seeing things that aren't really there. There's a couple of classic scenes in this movie. There's a scene where she bites into an apple.
Ooh, yeah.
And then it looks down and sees that it's a bunch of glass.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's the classic scene at the end with the brother and what happens to his sister. There's some great flashbacks to them being kids and dealing with this mirror and their parents going crazy, and their dad basically, who is the actor that plays their dad is actually fairly well known. He's been in a fair amount of stuff.
Yeah, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I know.
But just fucking awesome ghost story, like ghost story, haunting, whatever you want to call it, cursed mirror done right. You feel for all the characters throughout this. You question whether it's really happening or not. And by the time you realize it is, it's too late. And the ending is sad as fuck. It is really sad, actually. Not a happy ending.
No.
So Oculus, I think, was one of those films that I was like, oh my God, WWE touched this, it's going to be a big piece of shit. And It wasn't a piece of shit. It was actually a very great film. So that's why it's at number 3 on my list.
That's a great choice, because yeah, that's like, I watched that for the first time, like, on your suggestion, and we also did it for Derek B's show.
We did, yeah.
And that was I always avoided it because I was like, oh, this isn't going to be that good of a movie because it's WWE, and I'm glad I watched it, because yeah, it's actually pretty damn good.
Like, WWE putting their name to that was like the worst thing that could have happened, because you think it's going to be a shitty film, and it's not. It's actually not a shitty film. It's actually a really good film. Yeah. All
right, so we are on to number 32. Well, I'm also going with a film that is not funny. Very, very, very heavy. And it is another 2019 film, and also the other movie we talked about on our very first episode of the podcast. And that is The Nightingale.
The Nightingale. Fuck.
This movie is heavy, but man, it is so well done. And like, it covers colonization, like, in such a real, like, hard look. Like, it's in your face and you're going, there's no looking away. You watch this and you just feel awful. And coming from the woman that directed The Babadook, which was also a heavy film, but man, I didn't expect this from her. Like, this one was just, the performances all around were absolutely incredible. The revenge aspect of it, you're just like wanting that revenge for her so bad for everything that she's been put through. And then like she is just a good person that is just trying to help and like save others, and the Aboriginal man that's in this, and oh my gosh, like, such a hard look at history, and like done in a horror fashion.
Yep.
Like, this is real life horror, like, to a T.
I could not agree more with you, Scotty. It is a very intense film. It is a very emotionally draining film, but it is fucking incredible. And I believe it's Jennifer Kent.
I think so.
That directed this one. Same person that did The Babadook.
Yep.
And Babadook's another excellent fucking film. Actually, talking about excellent films, Babadook. And this film is definitely worth the watch, but I would caution people about the rape scene that's in this. It's a very realistic rape scene. It's not like these over ssocialized, spit on my grave shit, or spit on your grave shit. Like, it's a very, and it does talk about colonization very well. And I don't know, if you're really sensitive about colonization, maybe don't watch this movie, because like, it's true. I don't know. I don't know what more proof you need.
This is one of those it's never an easy watch, but like, I'm noticing there's a trend on my list. There's the lighthearted fun and fluffy stuff, and then there's the hard-hitting heavy shit that I'm just like, why am I watching this? But there's a reason. It's just because it's so well done. But at the same time, it's like, man, this one will put you through the emotional ringer.
It absolutely will. My 32 will not. It's called Club Dread 2004.
Gotta lighten it up a bit.
Yeah, so we'll come in from Scotty's that movie and talk about Club Dread. Club Dread's just a fucking stupid slasher. It's a comedy. It's based on this island that I talked about in my top 5 comedies. You've heard me talk about it before, but it's so fucking funny. And like, they all show up at this island to party, and the guy with the dreads, and how they make fun of Jimmy Buffett in it, and like the killer scenes, and like it's just funny. Like, it's just an overall funny fucking movie. And I really recommend, if you haven't seen Club Dread, to check it out. It is easy to watch, a good little horror comedy. It's done by who's the group?
Broken Lizard.
Broken Lizard. So if you like Super Troopers, you'll probably like Club Dread. It's
fun. It is so much fun.
We've talked about it before. We don't need to go into great depth with it. But yeah, check it out if you haven't had a chance to. Maybe not the same day you watch The Nightingale. I don't know if that's like
maybe that might be a good thing to do. Watch it after The Nightingale to just kind of like, it'd be like watching a Disney movie after a really dark horror film, just to kind of lighten the mood and make you feel a little better about yourself.
But yeah, that's my 32. So what's your 31st, Scott?
My number 31, on the year of my birth, 1981.
The year of my birth.
I want to say the line, "Mommy, a naked American man stole my balloons," and that is An American Werewolf in London.
Nice.
Oh, one of the best. Obviously, everyone knows this movie, and like the werewolf transformation is the best that's ever been done on screen. Just all around fun, funny, tragic. But man, the characters in this, you just love them so much. And David, you're just wanting everything to happen good for him, like especially after losing his friend, and then the effects that you see what happens to his friend as he's deteriorating and becoming more and more like zombie-like and just gross and just disgusting. Like, and the cleverness of the music in this, with everything talking about a moon, with every song representing the different phase of the moon, basically. Like, it's just a very well written, fun yet tragic story. That, and one of like the 2 John Landis films that I really do enjoy, like, because John Landis is a kind of a piece of crap, but still, this movie is incredible, and there's a reason it is like one of the best known werewolf films.
Agreed 100%. My 31 is The Tenant, 1976.
Nice.
One of the few 70s movies, besides I think Tales of the Crypt, that I have on here. Oh no, I have another one. But it's just, Roman Polanski is great in this film. He really does buy this, like, he's just an immigrant living in this country, trying to survive, gets into this apartment, and it's basically a cultish experience for him. And it's a very slow dread that's really built on a lot of dialogue and a lot of anxiety. And I think that delivers a very, very good film. So if you haven't had a chance to check this out and you're a fan of Roman Polanski, I strongly recommend it.
Great choice. Like, this is still one I need to see. Like, but I've only heard nothing but praise for this film.
I really like it. I think you'll enjoy it, Scott. You like a lot of thinking movies. You're a thinking man, so you like that. You like that shit. So I know we're at 30. So I think what I'm thinking, Scott, is we should go to 25 today. And what I think we should do is, if one of us has said something that's in our top 25, we acknowledge it, and then maybe we change it out for when we record the bottom 25.
Okay.
Because you've said a couple that are already on mine.
All right.
And then we can release it with sharing, or maybe we also say some honorable mentions now that would have made our list, but we just shaved them off as well after we do 25. So say if anything was repeated, like I said something that you would have said, or vice versa. And then when we record, we could even record next week and try to release these out a little bit quicker. We can replace them with different films. Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah.
You like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was some prepping. Everyone can hear that. So be prepared, because Scott and I are going to swap out and share what we would have repeated, because Scott already said 4 that were on my list.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
So
not. I can't remember if you've said any that are on my top 25 yet.
yeah, you said 4 for me, so I'd want to
Wow.
change
All
that
right.
out. Yeah. So my number, oh sorry, no, 30. What's your 30th?
Oh yeah, my number 30 is well, one of my top 5 all-time favorite vampire movies, and that is the Swedish film from 2008, Let the Right One In.
Very nice. Excellent film.
Oh man, this movie is just a very serious take on vampirism. And the little girl in this does such an incredible job as a like both performances from the kids in this film are
Mm-hmm.
incredible. And like it's just a great fucking story. And it's tragic because this little girl is a vampire who's been a vampire for like 100 years or longer. And so like, but she's trapped in this body and can only befriend like basically children that she needs, like other children that she basically is looking for to be her caretaker as they get older, and like kind of represent the parental figure, because obviously being a little girl you can't live in your own place by yourself. You have to
Yeah,
have an adult. And so like it's a very tragic kind of love story in a way, but almost a love story out of necessity.
it's awesome. It's a great fucking film, and it's a Swedish film.
Yep.
And it's yet again another example of an international film that really pulls on the heartstrings.
Yeah.
It's a
I
really, really good concept of a child vampire.
and I want to read the book one of these days because I do have the audiobook and I just have not got around to it yet. But
Oh,
like
is
I
it
heard
in
it's really
Swedish?
good. I think the original book was, and like that,
And then
like
it got
they did.
translated.
Yep.
You're not going to read the Swedish version?
I may, just to see what I can figure
All
out.
I can think of is the Swedish chef from
Birdie, 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 birdie.
right, which is not Swedish,
No.
just so we're clear. I just don't know how to speak Swedish. So my 30th is a 2019 film, and it was based off a series of short story books that came out in the 90s. And I think it was one of the best adaptations. And I'm foaming at the mouth for a sequel, people. When are you going to get a sequel out? And that is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. One of the fucking best movies that came out in 2019. It was so good. The kids in this were amazing. The artwork that they applied from the books in this was amazing. The stories they chose were amazing. Oh my, like I have nothing but praise for this movie. I just think this movie is out of this world good, and I cannot wait for a sequel. If you love Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark as a kid, you will love the fucking movie. So please, please, please check it out.
Yeah, this movie did a great job of bringing the books to life. And, Andre Overdahl, that's the second time one of his films has been mentioned tonight, because Autopsy of Jane Doe was his very first film like that, at least I remember. And to see him do that, then do Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, it's like, wow, yeah, you've come a long ways, and like completely different style of horror. And I love it. Like, and he does a great job.
Honestly, so good, so good. The next one is so 29 for you.
All right, so number 29 is a Stephen King adaptation where I said I would be bringing up Frank Darabont again, the director, because this man does seem to do a great job of bringing Stephen King's books to life. And this one was even said by Stephen King that if he would have thought of this ending, he would have changed it in his book. And that movie is The Mist from 2007.
Yeah, man, that's a fucking heavy film.
Oh man, like it's heavy, but at the same time, like such an awesome, like Lovecraftian creature feature horror film. Like the monsters in this are just absolutely terrifying and weird and out of this world. And it like that, that's the part that, Scotty gravitates towards is the creature feature.
Mm-hmm.
And also I gravitate towards the human conditioning and or human behaviors and how people will react when like stuck in a situation like this where they cannot leave and they are forced to work alongside each other. And like when you have one that's a righteous psychotic zealot that's just like the shit the cult she pretty much builds with these people in this grocery store, and the shit she ends up having them do, like just it's crazy and heartbreaking and not far from the truth of how people would react.
None of it is far from the truth, and I think that's the scariest thing.
Yeah. And then there's all this in the story, and then you get to that fucking ending where it's just the father, son, and the two other survivors that have escaped the grocery store, and they like are pretty much trapped in the middle of the mist, realizing that there is no end to the mist. and he kills his own son and kills them and then runs out of ammo and can't kill himself. And then he's stuck living, and then the mist starts clearing because the fucking army shows up and then he's forced to live with what he just did when they were just that fucking close to surviving.
Right.
It is such a fucking gut punch of an ending.
It is.
But man, what an amazing horror film. Like, the creatures in it alone are worth like watching because it's just they're like so freaking cool and unique and alien. And yeah, this is like a Lovecraft story, and it's done by Stephen King, and it got a short story turned into a full-length movie, and like, man, so well done.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's a fucking phenomenal film, and a sad ending.
Yeah.
My 29th is Maniac. We already talked about it.
Nice.
I don't know if we need to, talk about it more, but it is an excellent movie. Maniac from 1980, the original. So what is your 28, Scott?
My 28 is coming from 2012, and it is definitely a relationship-based horror film, and that is The Battery. A relationship-based horror film, and the fact that two people are stuck surviving together in a zombie apocalypse with no one else around, and the deterioration of like dealing with this on a day-to-day basis, just trying to survive, and the whole argument of one wants to stay in like one place and live when the other is like, no, we got to continue moving. If we don't, we are dead. And then just what they go through together. It is such a well-written, like well-acted fucking movie. And the director, who also directed After Midnight
and also starred in it.
And starred in both these films. And he's just incredible. And like, man, like you just feel for these characters and what they're going through. And it is such a well done, well made film.
I couldn't agree more, Scotty. And you'll find out why in a little bit. My 28 was a movie that really hit me emotionally. It was the ending, to the point where I can't watch the ending again. I get to the tail ending and then I have to like shut it off because I know what's going to happen. And that is Eden Lake 2008.
Ooh, yeah.
It is such a good fucking film. It's, I believe, an Aussie film.
Or
is it an English film?
I think it might be Aussie.
And it is so fucking sad what happens to this couple. And the kids in it are fucking evil. And you feel real bad for that chick, the main character in this movie. And when you get to the end and you think she's going to be okay and things are not okay, it's a gut punch. It's a real gut punch. And I watched it for the first time. I think it was either last year or the year before. I can't remember. And it's really stuck with me. It stayed in the back of my mind and it's embedded there. And that's why it's on my list at number 28.
Such a heavy film again, but so well done.
So well done, right?
Yeah, and there, like you said, that ending.
Gut punch. Real gut punch.
Well, now this one is more of an emotional film for me that means a lot to me for like in my life. And that is another Stephen King adaptation directed by John Carpenter, 1983's Christine.
Yeah. And this is your 27, just so we're clear with everyone. 27.
Yep, number 27, sorry. But yeah, Christine is a movie that is near and dear to my heart. For anybody that doesn't know, I think I've talked about it on the show before, but my brother had passed away about 5 years ago, and this was his all-time favorite movie. We've watched it growing up as kids. We've watched it so many times because he loved it. And on his birthday and on the day that he passed, I have a drink in his honor and watch this movie. I love this movie to death. It is something that will be a part of my life for the rest of my life. I will have it in any format that it is available. And like this, for one, it's my dream car. I do want a fucking thing. It's a 56 Plymouth. I want this fucking car so bad, and I want it to look exactly like Christine because it's so beautiful. But this movie covers addiction and like obsession, and it does it in a very great way. Obviously, the whole concept, killer car. I hear the concept, just like hop a fence, run away, like, get off the road. Yeah, that's obviously what you should do, but that's not what this film's about.
Well, and that's not what the killer car is. Not about it killing other people. It's about taking over Arnie. Yeah. You're right. It's about addiction and obsession. Yeah. Like that's the true evil of this movie.
Exactly.
Right? Like that's really, run away from the car. Fuck's sakes.
Right. Like, I mean, obviously there is the one scene with the lead bully that he's just running down the street as Christine is on fire, and he's just running straight down the road. It's like, okay, dude, yeah, zigzag, do something if you want to survive.
But panicking, right? Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't know what to think. Honestly, I personally think that criticism is just it's just to criticize. Like sometimes people criticize movies just for the sake of looking smart.
Yeah.
And I think that's honestly because I honestly don't think when you have things like a talking car, a doll that comes to life, you know, a killer pair of jeans, if we look at slacks, you're not expecting for any of that to happen. Okay. I don't put on my pair of jeans and think it's gonna fucking embody me or embalm me. Like honestly, like get the fuck out of here. Like it's a fucking classic movie, and there's no way that if a car came alive and didn't chase you, you wouldn't be shitting your pants. So like you wouldn't be thinking clearly enough to be like, oh man, how can I outsmart this car? That wouldn't be a thing. Not a thing.
Right.
Not
especially a car that is on fire at the end of in that scene.
Also the year this came out, like it's not like now where you have self-driving cars. Like it's, you know, I think people just need to chill out.
Yep. And like and also like one thing I wanted to bring up too is the use of the 50s music in this is so representative and ties into everything that's going on in the movie. Like Christine, the car itself has its own fucking personality, which is when you can make an inanimate object have its own personality, that is saying something. And
it's talent.
Yeah. And you know, obviously John Carpenter scoring this and directing it, like the man's a fucking master. But yeah, this movie, while not one of his best films, is always going to be near and dear to my heart, and it will always be in my rotation yearly.
It's awesome, Scotty. I'm really happy to hear that. I know how much it means to you.
Yeah.
I'm sure your brother would be very happy to hear that you put it on the list. So mine is not an older film like that, and it doesn't have the bells and whistles or the legacy. I would say a handful of people watched it because it came out in the theaters in 2020 last year. And I feel like the only reason it got the play it did was because it was 2020 or 2020. Yeah, 2020. And there wasn't like 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Fuck.
Yeah.
2 years ago. And it was because we were in the middle of a pandemic, and that was Come Play. And Come Play to me, first of all, finally an appropriate reflection of what autism is. Thank you, movies, for now actually taking mental health and neurological disorders and presenting them in a way that makes sense. Thank you.
Right.
It is, 2022, and we should be doing that. And this movie with this little boy, you just feel so bad for this kid. And this creature that stalks him is scary as fuck. And there's some really good suspenseful scenes in this movie. The relationship between him and his mom and his dad is really good. His dad's not a deadbeat. Like his dad, you kind of get the impression that the marriage has fallen apart, but his dad isn't a piece of shit. Like his dad obviously really loves his son. And there's just a whole lot of different dynamics that happen here. And you feel really sorry for the entity as well, because the entity is very lonely. And it kind of talks about how lonely you can be in the world when you have the ability to connect with everybody. Yeah. And it was a sleeper hit, in my opinion. The people that I did recommend it to either made their top 20 lists or was an honorable mention. So it's a good film, and I recommend watching it for people who haven't seen it yet. And that's Come Play 2020.
Yeah, this film was one that I was very happy to have gotten the chance to see in theaters.
Great movie.
Yeah, and movie. And it's unfortunate that it happened during the pandemic, because it probably would have got a lot more recognition. I think it would have.
Hence the Night House last year.
Well, I mean, also still pandemic.
Yeah, I know, Scott, you're so much nicer than I am, but I think we still have a lot of horror fans that will only go see franchises or big things that are splashy. Oh, like, yeah. You know, you get these great, not as well-known movies that come out and people just are like, oh, wow, he's not forever apart. Oh, wow, it's not Halloween 18. You know, like, and they just skip over it and they don't realize the good that can be out there. Scott's a much more optimistic person than I am. He's like Optimus Prime, and I'm like Megatron.
I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic Prime.
Optimistic Prime. So we're gonna do our 26, and then we're gonna go over any other movies that maybe we're just, scaling our top 50 that we may want to shout out. And then I have a bunch that Scott said that I now have to get rid of and say the numbers that they were at. So Scott, why don't you see us, towards closing this part one of our top 50 with your number 26?
All right. So, I mean, what would a top 50 list be without having at least one Vincent Price film in the first chunk of this podcast? And that is one of my favorites of his from 1959. William Castle's directed House on Haunted Hill.
Great film. Really
Oh
well
man,
done.
I love this film so much. It is definitely like, cheese, but at the same time, like, it's a good spooky movie for the time. And anything Vincent Price is in, man's a fucking
Couldn't agree
auteur.
more.
And like the toxic relationship that him and his wife are in, while it's like
Oh man,
it's a horrible relationship, but man, like the dialogue between them is just dark, such dark comedy. Remember
It's
that
funny.
time you tried to poison me? Oh, that was good times. And stuff like that. It's like, man, and like just the snide remarks they have towards each other over and over and over again in this. And it's just such a fun film from that time.
I
And
agree.
one that I watch every single year. And like, I just love Vincent Price in this so much. And yeah, like I don't know what else to say, because this movie's a classic. I've talked about it a billion times before, but yeah, love this movie to death.
That's awesome. I'm really glad that you brought that. I know how much you love Vincent Price and that
Yeah.
film, because I bought you the shirt
You did.
for your birthday in 2020. So my movie is a franchise movie. It is Friday the 13th Part 4, 1984.
Oh, nice.
I absolutely love this movie. I think it's universally loved. I think it's one of the top. A lot of
Yes.
people really like this film. It's either their second or their third. Average speaking.
Well,
of
actually,
course, right?
most people, it's their first.
Really?
Mhm.
I thought the second or the first would be their first.
A lot of people seem to think part 4 is the best, which I am very, that we may be talking about that in a second.
Yeah, it is a great film for many reasons. I think that you get the character of Tommy. Tommy, right? Tommy.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm like getting tired, right? So and his little makeup stuff that he does, and they carry that on really well into the fifth one, actually, with that character art of doing the masks and stuff like that they do kind of connect really well. And him just with his sister, and you really want these two people to fucking make it. Like, you really, really, really do. And I think it would have been really interesting if they went with him being the new Jason. I think that would have been a really interesting concept. It's cool that they didn't. But I thought that this film was awesome. The kills were awesome. The relentless of Jason keeping coming and coming, and this little kid being the one that outsmarts him is fucking awesome. And that's why I think it deserves to be number 26.
Well, it also deserves to be number 26 because of the amazing dance moves by Crispin Glover.
Well, how could you go wrong, right?
And this has probably some of the most likable characters in the franchise. Like, let me check the computer. Oh, the computer says you're a dead fuck. And just like,
it's pretty funny, right?
Yeah, there's so many great characters and great lines in this movie.
Was this on your list?
Yes, this was.
What number was it?
Let me look, but this was number 14.
Number 14. So Scott will have to replace his number 14.
Which is fine. I already got it replaced in my head.
Awesome. Is there any other movies you wanted to shout out, Scott, that you were going to put on your list, but you didn't?
Yeah, a few I will bring up. Let's see. Got to give some love to the Italian gore maestro himself, Lucio Fulci. And I want to talk about the Gates of Hell trilogy. So The Beyond, City of the Living Dead, and House by the Cemetery. Like, those movies are all just fantastic, weird, abstract, and like, obviously House by the Cemeteries. Huh?
Bob.
Oh, fucking Bob. I want to kick him in the face so bad. House by the Cemetery is obviously the weakest of the three, and City of the Living Dead for me is my all-time favorite. But yeah, those movies are all fucking fantastic. And then, of course, Suspiria. Which... And I'm talking about 1977 Suspiria.
Yeah, that was also one of my honorable mentions too, Scotty.
Yep. And then, of course, Psycho, the original.
Yeah, good one.
Let's see, one more that I have on this list, and that would be Theater of Blood with another Vincent Price movie.
Awesome.
An actor that is basically getting screwed by the critics, and he gets revenge. And you can tell Vincent Price just has a fucking blast with this role, playing different characters for each person that he's killing.
That's awesome. I haven't seen that one. I'll have to check it out. For me, the ones that Scotty just shows how good his taste is We Are Still Here was my 21.
Nice.
We talked about that already. I won't go into any more detail. The Battery was my number 19.
Wow.
My Pontypool was my number 18.
Oh, wow.
And American Werewolf in London was number 16 for me.
Holy crap. So I'm just taking all the ones in order there.
That's why I was like, well, we're going to have to definitely, because we had talked about going straight through, but this show's already been over 2 hours. And,
Yeah.
People may want to break this up in chunks when they're listening. And also, like, I need to pick a bunch of new movies because Scott said a bunch of them, which is good. It just shows. And, of course, he said Maniac already as well. And I know there's going to be one that he's going to say, I may even,
we can talk afterwards and find out.
Okay. And then ones that could have made my list, but I just kept them off by the skin of their teeth is Crimson Peak 2015.
Oh, good movie.
Really great. I love the sex scene. Like, I don't know why I find that sex scene so hot, but like she's wearing like a corset and shit. And like, it's like that, like they've been kind of denying themselves for so long. And then they consummate their marriage. And it's just like, probably because I like sex so much too. Like I was just, it's like me denying myself and really wanting to bang a lot.
Nothing wrong with that.
Was like, it's true though. Like
right?
It's true. Like that's one of my New Year's resolutions was to get more D. So like that's definitely something I'm hoping to do this year. Anybody, crickets.
Jesus.
Shoot your shot if you see them.
Or it's shoot your load.
She's all right. No. There's a song by Lizzo that goes, "Tell your friends, shoot your shot if you see him. Too late, he's already in my DMs."
Oh, good Lord.
My DMs, no one. It's ghosted. It's ghost town. Ghost town. It's like a paranormal investigators are coming to investigate soon. Anyway, I'm just kidding. But I'm not. All right. So MAF was my other one from 2017. I know there's lots of debate whether MFA.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I don't know if this is a true out horror movie, but I watched it on Exploding Heads. I talked about it there and it's really stuck with me since. And talk about a movie I went 360 or 180 on, fucking The Blair Witch Project 1999.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like, never in a million years would I be like, oh man, now it's on my list. But I'm like, I fucking respect the shit out of that movie now. Like, I've totally gone completely the other way on it. You mentioned Suspiria. Lights here. Flashy music. Martyrs, 2008.
Nice.
Really good film. The Fly, 1980. Feel like we may hear that movie next week. Maybe. And then The Night House, 2021.
Nice.
That is a movie that's going to be sticking with me. And I'm glad you mentioned Child's Play as well. That was something else that I had. So yeah, that's our first half of our top 50 personal horror movies. At this point, what we've watched. It's funny, when we did that 100 movie list for Exploding Heads, my list looks completely different now.
Oh yeah.
Completely different, right? Because of just watching more movies.
Yeah, same.
Right?
Like that was before we really dived into our first time watches like we have.
That was back in the day.
That was a long time ago.
It was long ago and it was far away. Oh, rest in peace, Meatloaf, by the way. Meatloaf passed away.
Oh, yes.
Meatloaf was one of my saving graces when I was a young Heather and still is today. Because rock and roll dreams come true for you.
But now he can live in the paradise and the dashboard lights.
He sure can, man. And you know what? You have your music and your talent and your art to follow you for the rest of your life. That's the best thing that you can do. Like us, I'm sure the 5 listeners will always remember us in their hearts.
We are forever in your memory.
Forever. So we will be back. Maybe we'll try to release these sooner. Depends how much editing Scott has to do, and maybe we'll try to release them back to back, Scotty. Like 1 week, like this end of next coming Friday, and then another next coming Friday, just because they're complimentary. We'll see what his schedule's like,
right?
Because he's the one that does the editing. So we'll see. We'll see what he has time to do. Though I don't think this one will be too hard because there's no real timestamps. It's just like
no.
Here's the list.
Yeah, here's the list. Like there might be like 1 or 2 timestamps, like an introduction, and then when we dig into the list.
Yeah, right. And then that's it. So again, Scott and I thank you for coming on this ride with us. It's been a slice. We'll be back with episode 51, where we're going to talk about our top 25 horror movies of all time. Now that I have to replace 4 of them. So I'm gonna have to go back to my list and really think about some other movies that I've seen and that I didn't put on there that, you know, I did make some hard calls actually, and I left some off, so now I'm gonna have to think about where I want to put them.
Yeah, and this, I will say right now, my top 10 is pretty much, well, I'd say probably like my top 15 is pretty much cemented in stone at this point, but everything from 16 to 50 probably could have been, it could be completely different. Like this list like could change any given day because there's just so many movies, and I probably forgot some when I was making this list. But yep, these are the ones that came up, and I'm very proud to have them on my list to represent. But yeah, this list could always change. Represent, yo yo.
So thank you again for joining Scott and I on our journey. We look forward to giving you the rest of our list coming up with our next episode. So until next time, what do you have to say to the good people, Scotty?
Until next time, kiddies, pleasant dreams.
See ya.